Welcome, everyone, to our latest episode of the Testing Room, where three of the gaming industry's best video game consultants who have never actually consulted on a video game bring you new topics each and every week. As always, I'm Alex, aka The Godfather, and gentlemen, I am 1 week down, 15 to go.
Yeah. I am Christian, aka Pseudo45.
I am Preston, aka Funkadelic Jedi.
Nice. So I in that I am 1 week down. I went to PT today. I got all new stretches. Kind of. I still have my normal stretches, just so the audience watching knows, which consisted of me going like thumb up, and I pull it down and hold it for 15 seconds, and then hold it for a couple seconds, and then slowly raise it up. I do that every hour, and it takes 20 reps. It takes about 12 minutes to do. They did not take that away.
Your thumb's going to be so jacked by the time you get out. It's going to have like a six-pack.
But don't re-rupture it, right?
Yeah.
So she didn't take that away. So now she added, now I have to like pull my thumb over, bend my wrist, so there's no tension, right? So I bend my wrist, and I pull my thumb down and hold it, and then I'm only allowed to move like this part. So like I hold it here, and I just do this number. That's it. Like 15 times.
A little like herpes.
Yeah, kind of. I do that 15 times because anything else is like, I'll talk about it in a second. And then she gave me one other thing I have to do 3 times a day, which is like I hold it down, I bring my wrist back, I hold it, and then I drop it forward and let it hang. Just to build like the muscle here because that's where it like connects. Yeah. And she just kept saying like, oh, you want to be careful and she said, be in the moment, like feel your body. I don't need you to do 15 reps if like your tendon is stressed and so on. And I asked, I was like, you keep saying it's fragile. Like last week you said it was going to feel strong and then it was going to go down and then up. I was like, how fragile? She goes, if you do this, she's like, if you do thumb up, like straight up, I bet $1 million you rupture it instantly. And I was like, oh, she goes, week 2. She's like, the second week will be the weakest it's ever going to be. And then like you'll start to get scar tissue and you'll build it from there. We'll build flexibility. She's like, but right now, if you do that, no, like thumb up, straight up, because I can't go beyond this, right? So it's kind of like 45 degrees. You go straight up, she goes, $1 million, you rupture it. Oh.
And I guarantee you she probably likes those odds in her favor.
Oh, I'm sure. And it was one of those things where it's like, well, thank you for instilling the fear of God in me when you're like, yeah, just take off that brace and do this like wrist exercise 3 times a day for the next week.
Real careful about that, yeah.
Jesus.
So, anyway, but what 15 to go. I think we can make it through week 2 and no rupture. Like I think we're I think we're good.
Oh, let me upswing, yeah.
I think you'll be good.
Yeah.
Did you because I know we talked about it. Did you end up digging out or finding the Steam TV?
No, I haven't done anything. There's 2. I'll talk about my week. I've played 2 video games.
Okay.
I've played Retro Soccer, which is an Apple Arcade game, and they actually bought. I think they just picked up the dev, or they signed with the dev that did Retro Football, which is kind of like Tecmo Super Bowl, way back in the day on Nintendo. Both of those games are games I can play completely holding my phone one-handed between my fingers and using my thumb on my right hand. That's it. So I played both of those. I've done 2 seasons on soccer. I've won the league twice. I'm in my 8th year on that. In football, because I've actually played that game for years, I'm on my 17th season, and I don't,
So I just have to ask, that crazy-ass claw setup that you had going there seems easier to you than just holding a single mouse and just doing that.
Well, he's got to find it first, Christian. He's got to find that Steam TV.
Well, no, I mean, to Christian's point, I could just use a mouse on my computer and just point and click. Yeah, Baldur's Gate is just you can point and click with that thing.
And it's like 150 hours, and so I'm like, if there was ever a game that was going to eat up a bunch of time, it could be that one.
Steam Deck has touch things on it. Can't you just use
a
but
you still got to hold it. That's too much. There's
Steam. I'll tell you why Steam Deck is too much. It's too tempting because the way it's weighted and heavy.
You're gonna want to pick it
up. It will be that one day I go to drop it one-handed, and without thinking, I'll go, oh, I'll catch it, right? And I can't.
Right. Whereas at least with a mouse, it'll be only in the other hand, and you can just sit there and not touch it.
We'll see. I ordered a new desk that Allie's gonna help me put together tomorrow. So I have a new standing desk. So maybe when I get everything set up, I'll try. But keep in mind, I've been traveling for work, right? So
Right.
To go for work has been fine. I think I went through a couple of days of depression knowing I couldn't play video games for a while, where I just laid on the couch and binge watched For All Mankind. So, that's my life right now. But I've played two arcade games, and that's been it. Just because I'm scared now that I'm gonna re-rupture this in the next week. So.
Yeah. Because I was like, if you were like, I'm not playing Dick, then I would be like, oh yeah, I totally get it. Do what you do was comfortable. But if you're already here, like if you're already at this fucking thing, then I'm like, bro, just use the mouse and because there's at least with Baldur's Gate, you're like, I can do this whole game just with the mouse. I don't have to do anything extra. Like the whole thing is clickable.
Now that I know that's true, you're right. You can do the entire thing with one hand and nothing else. And now that I know the ending, and it would be like a Dark Urge run, I wouldn't have to binge it, right? Like it could take me the next couple months to play. It wouldn't be a big deal.
That's what I was saying.
I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with this.
And again, I was totally fine. Like, if you had gotten on here and you were like, I'm not doing Dick, like, I'm literally just going to watch anime and read books until this 16 weeks. But like I said, when you moved your hand in, you were like, so I hold my phone like a claw, and then I just use my thumb like real crazy over here. I'm like, bro, just put your hand on the mouse and be done. But
probably be better for my wrist.
Probably. I have to imagine.
Yeah, I know. The real question is, can I pull out the Corsair mouse that I got from you? That's like the Naga with all the 15 buttons on the side. Could I do 15 using that mouse? Probably not, because you still have to WASDF, and I'm not doing that on the keyboard. So.
No, you could. There are people who play.
You can assign WSD to one of the 15 buttons. I am not
advocating this because I think that the people who do this are absolutely insane. But I would not. If you wanted to try it, you totally could. But no, because the reason is on mouse for 14, if you click the two.
You can auto run,
and it does the auto tracking camera. So you would be able to do that, and then just press the buttons and do your thing. Again, I think crazy people do that, but if that's
it sounds like if I'm gonna do that, it's gonna be a good time to work on my crafting classes
and all of the like easy leveling stuff, right? Like you could do MSQ like that, no problem. You could do the PvP roulette because you just really, if you wanted to be honest, you could just run around in PvP and just like not even press a button, and you could still get that free XP like that.
I mean, that's kind of what I do now.
That's what I do too, so fuck it. But, so you could do that, and then you could do through story stuff, because they added new story stuff, so you could do that. And you wouldn't have to worry about, like, really, like, moving out of the way of stuff. But then the things that you did need to move for, you just click the left and right mouse button at the same time, and it will auto-track the camera for you.
Yeah, so anyway, something to think about for next week. We'll see what we come back with. It's whatever can be done that, like, I just don't even want to tempt myself slippery slope, right? So like my left hand needs to stay. It's ridiculous because I don't want to say my left hand has to stay off the keyboard because I do work every day. Like I'm allowed to type, right? And my thumb can't move, but I don't even want to bring my hand into the situation.
Yeah, I get you saying like I have to do this for work, but then after that I'm not doing shit with you. But that was my point with Baldur's Gate. Is I was like, it's slow paced, right? Like there's nothing happening. And you can do your thing. Now, if you wanted to go fucking crazy and do 14 on the Naga mouse, look, more power to you. But I was just, Baldur's Gate is the game that it's your second run through, so you don't have to worry about you're binging it at all. But then it's so fucking long, and it'd be content that you hadn't seen before with it being a Dark Urge playthrough. That, dude, I mean, even when we were binging it, that game took over 4 weeks to beat. So imagine if it was the game that you were just like, hey, when I have some downtime, I'm going to play it. Fuck, dude.
That's what I do. And I'm only an actor.
Right. And he's been playing it since 2023.
Yeah, we'll see. I might have more to report on next week because I'm not traveling for work as far as I know. And we'll see how it goes. I told this, I'm not going to get into this for everybody listening, but Preston, I hurt my foot as well, which is hilarious.
You stub it?
We're hoping all I did was irritate my sesamoid tendons and bone and didn't break anything down there, because breaking is could be 6 weeks in a boot. But yeah,
because Alex can't get rid of his country bumpkin ways and wear shoes when he goes outside.
Here's what I was telling my physical therapist today. I've only had surgery once, not counting this, which was when I was 4 years old, having my tonsils out. I didn't have surgery for my wisdom teeth. They were able just to pull them, right? So I've never really had surgery. And then when it comes to going to the doctor, I broke my arm when I was a child, very young. And then I broke my hand when I was in high school in soccer, but I even took myself to the urgent care for that. That's all I've ever done in life. I've had a pretty cushy life when it comes to needing to go to the hospital for stuff. So I think what happened is my body found a crack in the system, right? It was now is our time to make up for it. What can we do? So I have this really great under desk treadmill that I got from my new standing desk.
Nice.
Oh, dope.
Can't use it right now.
Yeah.
Well, one of these days.
Who wants to go next?
Well, let's me go next so that way we can do Preston's Comment Corner.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're all excited. Talk about your thumb. It's okay.
He's been sitting there listening the whole time, just seething underneath, going, "Shut up, shut up."
You're going to go into your week? Okay, go into your week. Just go ahead and do it.
New Year, save old Alex, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. I
actually haven't messed that up in quite a while.
I know. I'm just kidding.
You do a good job. But Preston's Comic Corner, of course, is also sponsored by Comic Headquarters.
Oh, right.
If you're looking for a trade paperback or hardcover, the guys over at Comic Headquarters can help. Even if they don't have what you're looking for, they'll offer to order it in for you. Visit comichqstl.com today, where you can contact them and order that trade paperback or hardcover that you've been looking for. Or give them a call at 314-433-5449. Let them know that the testing room sent you, and you can get 10% off your order. So, if you're looking for comics, I just got my box in from Comic Headquarters. Looking for little Peach Momoko covers, variant covers. He wasn't even getting this comic, but he got it for me. He knew I wanted to get it.
It looks like a Sandman thing. What is that?
It's called Guma. I don't know. It's for a Titan comic. So I just saw that she did some really cool gothic horror kind of cover. I'm like, I kind of want that. He's like, I wasn't going to order that. And he's like, I'll get it for you. I'm like, sweet. Or, maybe you get yourself a Chris Bocello variant cover for Birds of Prey. Like he mentioned earlier, trade paperbacks. Trade paperbacks are all great.
Just in the quality of that camera when you pulled out the Birds of Prey one, my first thought was, damn, did they make a Trigun comic?
Oh.
It literally looked like that. Yeah. And then when you were like, it's Birds of Prey, I was like, it's less cool to me, but that's fine. Yeah.
They even got, not just your usual everyday, just random loose comics. You can get yourself some graded comics. Like I got a 9.8 of the first appearance of Dr. Aphra in Darth Vader #3. Yes, Darth Vader #3. So get all sorts of good stuff if you like comic books. There's Pokemon cards there. They got all little Funko Pops.
Everything on my wall, minus my right here, I have a Spider-Man, Symbiote, Mysterio comic there. Everything else, though, from Catwoman to Black Cat to The Flash to all of these Batman medals, were purchased at that shop, and they're all of them are minus Flash is 9.8. Flash is 9.6.
Yeah,
but quality stuff right off the shelf.
Primo.
Right,
if you will.
And
quality stuff.
Comic Headquarters illustrious leader Jake also did let your boy know that he does order manga, so all my Berserk special editions are coming through him.
Preston's thinking about getting B-Stars. It's gonna get crazy.
We have
I don't know.
we have a
Never mind.
sponsorship. We have a sponsorship for now. But when you said Preston's Comment Corner sponsored by, and Christian goes, "Oh right," I could only think, "Oh, this isn't gonna last long." Jason,
No, well,
what
the reason-
terrible mistake did I make?
Because I forgot. I thought it was just going to be the show. I forgot that it was Comment Corner specifically that was sponsored. So when he saw it, I was like, "Who?" And then I was
No,
like, "Oh,
I add
right,
the flavor
right,
to
right.
it. They don't even know they're sponsoring the actual Comic Corner. They're sponsoring the whole show, but it's them. But yeah,
What you can't see, those are just the comics that I bought there and eventually had him send out and get graded for me. What you cannot see is in the closet the many trades and boxes of individual comics that I've purchased there too.
yeah, it's good. They'll get you what you want. If you're curious at all, hey, if you don't know what you want, ask Jake. Or anyone, to be
He's a
fair,
good
at the
man.
place. They can do great recommendations. I even had just his normal other employees out there, like John. There's another gentleman, I can't remember his name, but they've given me great recommendations. But yeah. Comment Corner. This one is actually from Two Worlds Podcast. Thank you for writing in. A question from one of our listeners at the Two Worlds Podcast that I wanted to extend to you boys with an I. Okay. Question for the PC gamers about game reviews. Do you think the way Steam does their reviews is a good mid-ground? Like, on there, it's user reviews, and at the top of the games page, it has both the overall rating and the most recent ratings. This way, it shows what actual users have thought, both from launch and more recently. The trade-off being, it can be subverted, like when the game that had a Tibetan flag in it and a bunch of Chinese people gave it negative reviews based on that. That's a quote from their side.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Me personally, I think that Steam reviews on the whole the Steam review system, I should say,
Yeah.
on the whole is good. Like I think it's helpful, and it also for something like Star Wars, right? You can figure out like that Steam version that came out of that game was pretty borked at launch. As Alex had numerous episodes discussing all of the foibles that he had to go through, right? And so in that particular instance, like if I were to see like, oh, hey, overall, this game is positive, but then it's like recent, mixed, or negative, right? And it's like, okay, well, that tells me that they still haven't fixed it, right? Or if it was the flip, it was like, hey, overall, this game has mixed reviews, but recently they're overwhelmingly positive. It's like, oh, okay, well, then they probably fixed it then. And then I can start digging through those reviews and take a look at it. So from that perspective, I think that it's good. The problem is that users are the crux of that review system, and most in a vacuum it's fine, but as soon as you start having review bombers bomb a game for one reason or another, then it becomes harder to use that system in any sort of meaningful way. I think what I would say is the best thing that Steam does is the 2-hour refund window.
Yes.
I think
Steam is the most fair because, to your point, when it comes to review bombers, you can see how long people have played the game when they leave the room. And I think that's important, right? Like, if I see somebody that's like middle-aged,
0.1 hours
they have
on
like
record.
1,000 hours versus somebody that has like 6
minutes,
hours in, you're like,
yeah.
So I actually think it's very fair. I haven't personally run into an issue with my own games where something's been review bombed, right? But Christian, to your point, like, I appreciate the whole like middling, but now it's highly rated, or all time it's 98%, and recently it's 90% or something. Like I really like that. The problem I have with the Steam review system is how it affects your what do they call it? You're up next.
your recommended queue.
Your recommended, right? So I oftentimes get games recommended in my queue that I would never play. Like I get Call of Duty recommended, right? And I don't even play games like Call of Duty, but they still get recommended to
But
me
you play,
sometimes.
the problem is that you play Halo, and Halo has a shooter tag, and Call of Duty also has a shooter tag.
Right. So you get that. I got one the other day that actually infuriated me, and I reported the game, which was I was going through and I had that Alex Jones game recommended.
No shit.
Okay.
I'm surprised Steam even let that on their store.
Which, by the way,
I mean, they let porn games on their store, so.
Asmongold, right?
Yeah.
Asmongold, the one that does
YouTube
WoW stuff.
YouTube stuff.
Yeah. He in that trailer for that game, he is definitely one of the people that they feature in the trailer for that game, laughing of like, this is hilarious, blah 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 blah. And he's not saying like I agree with anything, but it's like, this is so ridiculous, haha. And instantly I was like, I don't watch your content anyway, but I know enough about you to know who you are, so automatically like have just lost respect for you. But B, like, I'm reporting this game for there is an option. It's not like libel or something, but it is just like misrepresentation of stuff. But that's the only issue I've ever had is like their up next thing. I actually think their review system is very fair and a really good way to do it because there's validation. How long did you play before you said something?
Yeah, and well, that's what I think is the thing is like I think I use the review system or the refund system more often than not, where I'm just like, I don't worry about trying a game on Steam now because worst case scenario, I think you can know within 2 hours whether or not a game is going to be for you. Like if you can, there is very few games on this world that you don't get a single idea of what's happening within the first 2 hours, and so you can really touch something and be like, or even if it's just from a performance standpoint, right? Like you can play a game for 2 hours, be on the game, and you're like, hey, this isn't running on my stuff, so I like what I'm seeing here, but I can't play it. Then it works, right? So I personally, I think that Steam has crafted an ecosystem where it's really easy for somebody to just low risk try something, right? Like because it's 2 hours. If it's under 2 hours, it's no questions asked. You just get a refund, and so you can go and try something out, and if it's for you, great, keep it. If not, then you know
what else?
Don't try again.
I appreciate about the review system, which isn't technically the review system, but on their pages, I love their community tab. Because you can scroll through the community tab and see like screenshots of the game beyond the published screenshots and trailer. You can see the funny stuff people do, or people actually write about it and say like, I've had this issue. So I use the review system in tandem with the community tab to scroll through to see before I buy it. Like, okay, I watched your trailer, but is this game really going to be for me or not?
Yeah.
Fair.
Interesting question, I think, to PC users specifically, right? Like, because Steam's one way, but I think it almost brings up the question, like, is that implying that the rest of the review system is already effed? Like, we've already acknowledged that, like, reviews on console games are just screwed, so PC is, like, the one safe outlet that's more fair? Or is that saying just, like, there is no great review system for console games other than...
And there's not really. Like, if you go onto those console web stores, it's usually you can rate this game 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 stars, and then you can write like a little blurb with your controller about like how you felt about it. But most of those things boil down to, like, I hate this game. This developer's woke. Whatever, and you're like, neat, and then you move on. It's also buried at the bottom of the page on both storefronts, and so like, we've all been on it's going to be part of the topic today, but we've all been on the PlayStation and Xbox store. Like, if we get on how many times are you scrolling down to the bottom of that web store? I can guarantee you the answer is 0. You're pressing add to cart, play, and then I'm moving on.
I'm not scrolling all the way down because I don't want them to start collecting my data.
Well, that's a whole other
So let me ask both of you then. I mean, even if you buy a game on Steam, like, so many of the games you buy on Steam are more places than just PC. Where do you go to for reviews? Like, do you immediately go to Steam for your review, or do you go to other outlets for a review on a game?
So, I think I've talked about this before. I think that in today's day and age, I think that it's more important to find specific journalists or content people that with one rare exception that I'll name, but find people whose tastes align with yours
100%.
by looking at their older work, right? Looking at their older articles, and then saying, okay, I know that this person and I are relatively close or pretty close on things that we like in a game, what we prioritize in a video game, what we think is the best parts about this medium, like the whole 9 yards, right? And then you follow that person and the group of people, I should say, because you won't ever just find it by one. You'll have to get a few. Then you do that and you say, cool, this is my barometer. And even sometimes it can work in the opposite way, right? There's certain people that I know that hate things that I love. So when a game comes out, if I hear this person like, yeah, it's just too much of this for me, it's like, okay, I need to put that game on my radar, because if it's too much for this person, since I'm like the polar opposite, I'm probably going to love this, right? So I should probably check it out. My one exception to that rule is, and I think we just briefly talked about that before, this is not like a sponsored thing, although I would love it, but Edge Magazine, okay, for those who don't know, is one of, if not probably the best gaming publication that I only even discovered just very recently, like last year. But I have subscribed to them now. I get all of their issues through the mail. And there's people who review things on there that I don't even necessarily agree with, as far as like, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered them or whatever, but it's so incredibly well thought out and well written, and it's like really, really, really good critique on just like video games as like an art thing and all that other stuff. It's fantastic. I love reading through every single thing they put out, and I think they're very fair. Like they also, it's not for the quote unquote like faint of heart as far as reading game reviews go, because they use the full scale. Like 5 is an average regular video game, and like 7 is like a pretty good to great video game. 8 to 9 is like great, bordering on like masterpiece, and then 10 is legitimate. I don't even know if they've ever given one out, but a 10 is like legitimately, we couldn't find any, like there's nothing. It's done everything that everything would ever do, right? They very well may have given some. But since I've been reading, I don't know that I've seen one yet, but. They're very fair, like, and they use the whole review scale, but I think that's them using the whole review scale ends up turning people away from them, because it's hard for people to understand when they look at like a 1 through 10, when they're like, no, if it's getting a 5, that means it's shit. It needs to go in the trash can. It's like
their 10 out of 10 list. If you think about, I did, Christian, like you, I got their magazine of like 100 greatest games ever made or whatever over the decades, and that alone had more than 100 games in it. And think about how many come out a year. They've only given 24 10s.
That's good though. I think that's good. Yeah. Like and I'm sure if that like if you look at you'd probably be hard pressed to argue with things on that list, even if they wouldn't make your list specifically.
It's actually interesting. So there's like some of the ones that you would think of if you think of like greatest games ever. There's like Ocarina of Time. There's Mario 64. Gran Turismo was one. Halo Combat Evolved. So there's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's stuff you wouldn't expect. Like so this one at Bayonetta's on there. That's not one I wouldn't expect. But one I would not expect, because I didn't play it personally. Immortality. Right? Christian, you played that game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
and that's an example of a game that like it didn't necessarily land for me all the way, but I'm not gonna argue with somebody when they talk about like how cool that fucking game is. Like, you wouldn't hear any arguments from me. It just didn't hit for me that well, but the experience was cool as fuck. So,
Preston, where do you go? Where do you get your reviews before you buy a game?
I usually don't mess with reviews too much, unless there's a story about one being like, oh, they're way too low on this, or oh, this is like, this place is giving it praise. I might look at it, but most of the time, I mean, I have a lot of friends who I talk to about video games, and I can usually ask somebody, or I usually hear about somebody mentioning something about them. I follow a couple other video game podcasts, so like if Castle Super Beast mentions that they really like a game, heck, how do you think I got into Pokemon? Not Pokemon. How do you think I got into Marvel Snap? Is because Pat was singing its praise and I got into it, and now I'm fucking been addicted for the past year. So it's just, you like Christian said, you find someone who has some similar taste to you, and then they kind of mention a recommendation, just the same way you do with your friends. And that's usually how I get my recommendations. Ratings are just fun to read for me. Like I like hearing, like Christian talks about the Comic Edge. Like I like hearing somebody do an actual nice written piece on a video game.
Yeah.
And now if it's trash, it's trash, and I love reading those reviews too. But it's just nice to hear somebody just talk about the in-depth details of games and without spoiling it and tell you how good it is. But honestly, it never usually sways me one way or another when I'm buying a game or not. I usually that's my friends who are swaying me one way or another.
Yeah. And I think mainstream journalism now this is not just a gaming problem, it's all over the place, but in gaming specifically, it's hard now to take some of it seriously, knowing the confines that they have to work in, right? Like imagine being a journalist at IGN and you're basically working on a 3-point scale. You know that if you give a game a 7, which is crazy to even say this, but if you give a game a 7, you are basically saying the game is bad. And that's how people are going to take it. Even though on your own rating scale, it says that 7 means good, which is not like that's, but people will read that and be like, 7? Are you joking?
It's not 9. It's not 10. It's not an 8. So it's bad. And so you have to be, and like, so those journalists, you'll see like their first couple reviews that get on IGN. If it's a new person starting, their first couple reviews, I believe, are probably like their true, honest to God, like, these are my feelings on this game, right? And then all of a sudden, you'll start to notice that the will is just like wrung out of them, and and then they go do something else during the review machine. Yeah,
the one of the journalists at IGN who her name was like Katie Plague or something like that, but she was the one who got a bunch of flack for the her Pokemon Omega Sapphire review, and she got so much shit over that review and other ones that came after that she ended up quitting game journalism entirely and now works just in the game industry as a community manager, like a PR person, or in some cases they'll go on to be writers, like they'll just write for video games. But because game journalism literally was like murdered for them because of the audience. Like I just don't know, and this goes to the internet at large, but because the internet is basically unusable now by regular people, I don't know that you could find anywhere outside of something, like I said, the very rare case of Edge, I don't know that you could find anything that you could have be reliable.
Yeah, I kind of mix. Like I'll just read a bunch of articles, and that could be from an IGN, from a Kotaku, from a place you've never heard of, right? Like, and just kind of put all of that together. I never rely on just one, for sure. But IGN, to me, is funny. Like you said, their scale is so jacked that when you see something like I sent you guys the other day on Suicide Squad, where they literally said, like, we played Suicide Squad and we did not like it, you just have to look at it and go, oof. Like, if IGN, who is legally required to give good reviews, apparently, and they don't like it, like, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the Comic Corner. So I'll continue on my week now.
Do you think, man?
Still playing that Snap. Still playing that Snap. So the season's been good. The meta's changing up a little bit, so I've been liking it. Been getting win cubes and winning, so of course I like it. Still holding strong. Not putting any more money than the season passes in every month, so we're doing good on that. It hasn't become a problem. Meek is out this week. So they've been kind of putting in new movement cards. Meek, you've seen him in Thor Ragnarok. He's the little bug guy with the blades. He's Korg's friend. So in Thor, yeah. So
I think Meek is a she. Wasn't that the gag?
Oh,
at one point, like at the end, didn't Meek have like kids or something? He's like, "You've been a woman the whole time." Like,
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that movie, and I forgot most of it. But yeah,
Jake is listening to this in his car, and he's going to drive off the road because people are spending too long on a movie. You're like, why are we even acknowledging this shitty ass movie?
It's a movie they made. It's where the character's from, as far as the movies are concerned. So, but yeah, they're adding a couple more cards in there to kind of make the movement kind of decks a little bit more viable and more fun to play. So they've been doing some buffs and nerfs here and there. One big nerf they gave us was the Blob. So when I talk about cards for Snap, know that I'm going to give you two numbers. The first one's going to be the cost. The second one's going to be the power they put on the board. Blob used to be a 6/3, so you usually can only play him around the last 1 or 2 turns. And what he does is when you put him down, all the cards that are still in your deck, he absorbs all of them and absorbs all their power. So if you just have a bunch of big heavy hitters in your deck still, that guy can get up to like 30, 40 plus. So it's insane. And this is a card that you would have to gut in their spotlight caches. It's not something you can pay money for, really. So people who don't have them are, feels bad man kind of situation. Like, I didn't have them for like a week, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this card. I have to get this card because it's just doing fucking great numbers. This week they put out a nerf to him, a big boy nerf. So he's a 6/0 now, which who cares because he absorbs 40 points. But now he has a cap. So he absorbs cards. So he can absorb a stone that's like 1 power. He can absorb, like Nightcrawler. He's like 2 or 3 power, whatever. And then once he gets to the point to where he gets to 15 or higher, it stops. So you can't get too far past there. Now, if all the cards you had in your deck were 10s, so you'd have a 10 and another 10, he hit 20 because that's when he got past that. It's just depending on which cards are next in your deck kind of deal. So he could get past 15, but he's not going to get past certain numbers. And man, that is going to change some things up. I was playing a little bit of today because it just dropped today, and Blob is not doing as good as he used to. So you can.
I think they should. I think they should change up their game a bit to adapt and do what Magic does, which is they just ban some cards, say like, hey, this card is too powerful, it can no longer be played in the competitive piece, but then open up like a free, like Conquest, the Conquest mode, they just make that the Wild West. Like, use whatever cards you want to use. Like, that would be cool.
They're not there yet. They don't have as many cards as Magic, and they haven't been around for as long as Magic. So, like, them getting rid of a card, they've only done it once. They got rid of Kitty Pryde for like a couple months because she was flat, stupid broken. And then they brought her back. She wasn't as broken. She was still pretty good. And then like 2 months later, they nerfed her, and no one uses her anymore. So she's more of like a starter card now. So you play it as you're getting cards. You don't play it after you've gotten the cards. But yeah, it's crazy what they did to the Blob. But yeah, it's going to be cool to see what kind of happens with that. If they revert it back at all. I was waiting to see how they're going to change them, because there's no way they're going to change them. People are dropping 40s. If I had a one lane that I definitely was winning, and I put Blob on another lane, I was probably going to win that lane. Most likely. 9 times out of 10. Because you drop it down there, it's like 40 plus power. That's all you need there. You only need that one card. Definitely not going to be able to do that anymore. So I'm curious to see, because the Thanos deck I was running and that a lot of people were running, that is not going to be ran anymore. It was like a Lockjaw Thanos deck, and it just, that deck is done. Done. Other than that, more Baldur's Gate 3. I am in Act 2 now. Wild things are fucking happening. I finished the not Adamantine. Is it Adamantine? Adamantine Forge?
Yep.
Yeah.
You got it right.
Went through there. First time didn't do so hot. Second time, got the idea of it. Did perfectly fine. And then now I was in the spot to where you're going into... Fuck, I can't remember it. But it's where all the darkness is at, and you can get hurt by the darkness if you're not in certain lit areas.
Shadow Forest. Or whatever.
And so you find the village there, so you're kind of going through that stuff. I got...
Last Light's Hope or something.
Yeah. And it's going to be a little bit spoilery, so if you're not getting through Act 2 of Baldur's Gate, give it some time. I'll put a spoiler warning up here. But Karlach's heart is now, like, mostly taken care of. She's not going to explode, on random anymore. Whatever, like not as soon, but she would need to go back to her homeland or whatever sooner or later. But we'll see how he goes. We'll see what kind of evolves with all of that. I'm sure we can figure something out. Put it that way. But she can touch people now, so I gave her a big old hug, and it was a sweet moment. And then I had to do a quick reload. So in that little inn or whatever, it's supposed to be a bar, or whatever. Yeah. You're supposed to go talk to the lady who's like actually casting the light on the area to kind of keep them safe.
Yep.
And then the dude comes in with the wings, right? So he comes in, and I'm fighting him, and he's trying to take her back to whatever guy. And he walks straight past me, like gets misses on all of the opportunity attacks, and then crits her like 3 or 4 times, like within like 2 turns. So he gets taken, because like as soon as she's down, like cutscene happens, he's gone. Like there's no like stopping him from taking her. And I'm like, man, man, like, okay, well, let's just commit to it. Like, that's what happened. And like, we go a little bit
Fuck
further,
that.
and that's when all of a sudden, like, the townspeople start fucking dying off. And I'm like, no. This is not how this is going to be. Like, I know I can take care of him. He's just not going to get this lucky next time. So I reload the save back there, started that again, took him down, no problem. Took down the little demons, no problem. It was great. And then it's like, okay, good. All right, so this is how it's supposed to play off. My favorite part. Go ahead.
I told you how I cheated that, right?
How'd you cheat that?
How'd you cheat that?
Because he kept taking her no matter what.
The barrels?
I carried all of the barrels and
Yeah, I
boxes
remember
up,
that now.
blocked all the doors for people coming in, and then I casted invisibility on her so he couldn't see her.
Oh, that's a good
and
idea.
then he
Invisibility.
flew in there and he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, yeah, you don't. And I just rocked him.
That's awesome.
I had in mine. I killed him, and then one of his little goons was sitting like outside in the hallway or whatever.
Yeah.
And I hit the goon so hard that it had like a knockback thing, and so it knocked him off the ledge and landed him down. And then all the little villagers that were on the bottom floor just started ganging up on him and beating the shit out of him while he's down on the ground.
Christian built his own meta, which is solely out of strength and knockback.
Hey, that
He
shit
just ran
works, dog.
around
That shit
kicking
works,
people
dog.
off the edge.
I don't know how many times I've done
Dude,
it.
my paladin was such a fucking beefcake by the end of it. There was nothing he could, like, anytime there was a strength check or anything, it was like, I
am
will
I even
move
rolling?
this mountain
Yeah.
if I have to. Yeah, I loved it.
My favorite scenario that I ran into during those like handful of hours was, so you do all that saving, and then you're supposed to go off and find like the traitor or whatever. He ends up being the guy with like the lantern, the pixie lantern, and like the spider legs.
Yeah,
He looked dope.
So he comes up to me and we're talking, right? He knows I'm like got the power and everything like that. So I'm like, yeah. And you know what? She actually wants me to have that lantern. He's like, are you serious? And like, I'm a wizard and everything, so I'm like pulling this like a special dialogue out of my ass. And it's like in the end, he's like, well, I guess if she wants you to have the lantern, we're gonna give it to you. He's like, so what do we do now? And she's like, she wants you to go. Like, go on, continue on your job. And he's like, but the darkness will kill us. And he's like, well, if this is her will, this is her wish, we gotta do it. She'll protect us somehow. That boss and his minions walk straight into the darkness, mission complete, dead. And I'm like, fuck. Death by dialogue, this is great. This is phenomenal. I love
Dude,
it.
it feels
You
good.
will run into a couple more
I
in this
bet.
chapter that are very good.
Yeah.
If you let them, Death by Dialogue's really
Death
good.
by dialogue is great. So yeah, Boulder Gate 3 is going great. Getting through Act 2, I think I'll probably get through that pretty fast from what it seems. It seems pretty, not like super straight and narrow, but like I'm getting to my main quest destinations a lot sooner.
It is more or less.
more
there's
condensed
a little
area.
Bit of, there are side things that you can do in Act 2, but those side things are still mostly related to the main
Gotcha.
quest. Act 2 is relatively on rails. It's for good reason. I mean, there's a lot of plot shit that's happening during that time that needs to pop off.
They also said they did that because Act 3 is so open, and they're like, it would just be so much to do in the Underdark, you would never leave Act 2.
That's
So
fair.
Act 2 is very, very on rails.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Also, we've been playing a little bit of Halo Infinite. I know Christian was up on one of those nights, and then we're actually doing pretty good. I know. I'm sorry, Alex. But what was the mode that we're playing? It's pretty much hallway capture the
Husky
flag.
Raid.
Husky Raid. I love that.
Were you playing with Jake?
No, you're
No,
playing
this
with a
was,
couple of people in Discord.
It was like super late.
I've sold Jake on Husky Raid from
Yeah,
Fiesta because it's chaos, chaotic fun.
Yeah, it was super late at night when Preston and I were playing last time.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm feeling good because those hallway kind of capture the flag levels. Like I can finally actually use snipers and feel good about it. Like normal maps and stuff like that, I suck with snipers. Like I'll be looking for
Preston pulled out
somebody.
a sniper and this, and he's like, "You can't run this time, motherfucker."
Yeah, no, I'm sitting there back. Like, I'll protect the base. I have the sniper and I got a sword. Like we're gonna fuck shit up. Like, it's great. It feels good. Christian gets the flag and I'm just popping dudes as they're trying to come back after him. It's great. It feels good. Lastly, start up a new game, Telltale's The Expanse, where you play as Kamina Drummer. It's not bad.
I just bought it.
Did
It's not
you?
bad.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So they do a lot of fun stuff with like the 0G in there, to where like you'll be going through ships or like anything like that, but like you hit the right trigger, you get floating, and then you kind of just doing your whole little float around, do some puzzles, do some examining of objects and things of that nature. It's a Telltale game. It if you've seen a Telltale game, you know what I'm talking about. But the character designs that they have, that they use for most of their games, I don't think is the greatest choice for an Expanse game, especially when you're using a character that you've seen live action. So like when they're doing the Batman game, it's Batman's in a suit most of the time. The Joker's got a whole bunch of makeup on. He looks goofy anyways. But when I'm playing this one, I'm playing as Kamina Drummer. It's the voice actor from the show. And she's doing a really good job, but those faces can't give as much expression as she does, or the great acting work that she does in the TV show. You're not getting it as much watching the Telltale, puppet version of her going through there and talking around. And there's a super emotional moment to where someone dies, and even I found out that most people were able to save the person, essentially. Like, it says, like, hey, does this person go to the next chapter or does it not? It gives you percentages at the end. And it's like,
right.
It's like the percentages of that person being alive the next chapter was like 36%. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, I don't know what branch I took to get to this point, but okay, we got there. But yeah, that game's pretty good. If you like Telltale games, and if you definitely like The Expanse, it's a good little addition. But I keep on forgetting to look up the timeline for it, but I'm pretty sure it's before the show started, because they still talk about Shaw and things of that nature. So I don't think they talk about any of the events that happened within the show, as far as like all those giant galaxy changing events that happen in that show. They don't mention any of those, so I'm pretty sure it's set before all that. That, and spoilers for a show that's fairly old, but Kamina Drummer is like head of like the Galactic Police at the end, I think, of the Telltale series, like not Telltale, the Expanse series from Sci-Fi, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, it's good. Alex, once you get that thumb working, it's gonna be a fun little ride. Yeah, you'll like it.
I know. I was hoping it was going to be one of the basic. Like, I was like, oh, it's Telltale. Maybe I can play
It's
with
a
one
lot
hand. I
of
was like,
walking
no,
around.
Batman
Walking
required
around.
like QTEs and other stuff.
It does require QTs, but this one also requires you to walk through ships, examine things around, looking and moving. So that would be a bit of a chore for you for sure.
But I will be coming to that as soon as I'm
As soon
back.
as you're
baby.
back and
As soon as
running.
we're going.
Yeah. But other than that, nothing else. I don't have a whole lot of shows that I'm watching right now, and just kind of putting New Girl in the background, or AGDQ, which has been right now. So I've been doing that. Just put that in the background while I'm playing with Steam Deck. Pretty much what I've been doing.
AGDQ will be over by the time you hear this.
Yes, it will be, but feel free to go back to their YouTube and watch all the
Yes,
reruns for those. They're great.
Absolutely. There's been some.
Yeah.
There's a run that somebody did of Super Mario 64 with a drum kit, and
Yeah.
it was fucking wild.
It wasn't
I
a
was
full
going to
round,
ask you
yeah.
guys about
Full
that.
round, yeah, it's great.
I was going to ask you about that because I was coming back from work from Chicago last night, and I popped it on when I landed and watched it as I was walking through the airport. And I saw the run. What? I don't even know the question I want to ask. Like, is there anything that would make you ever want to do that? But B, like, what do you think goes through that person's head? At what point do you go, I'm gonna play this game?
So he told the story. He said that it was originally like there was a MIDI program or some sort of program that they were working on that I guess his partner was working on, that they realized the signal was the same as the inputs for an N64. And they were like, well, if that's true, then that means that this should be possible. And so he started by playing Ocarina of Time and some other N64 games. And then he was like, and obviously, I think part of it is, it's a really easy way to, and not easy as in like physically easy, but it is easy in a like it's a surefire way to get noticed on the internet very quickly and start gaining some notoriety very fast. Because when somebody sees this guy doing fucking LBJs on a Super Mario 64 run while he's fucking rolling on a drum kit to get it to happen, like, even if you are not part of the speedrunning community, even if you are not part of the Super Mario 64 community, and all these extra things, you can see that and be like, I'm not 100% sure what's happening here.
That's pretty rad.
But it seems impressive. Yeah. Like, it seems like it's impressive. And that, I think, is huge for, like, to sort of gather an online following. But yeah, they've had all sorts of crazy runs. They had a Super Metroid Dread race that I saw that came down to like
I love that.
1.5 seconds or some
it was
shit.
really close.
Like, ugh, it was so good.
I watched the Metroid Prime dual assisted run,
Oh yeah.
and that
Or
was
the
one
Super
of those-
Metroid one, you mean?
Super Metroid. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those where I was like, I am absolutely not sure what's actually happening here. Like I can keep up with you one hitting things, and I can keep up with you like skipping doors and other stuff. But beyond that, I have no idea how you're making any of this happen. But it looks
So
TaskBots.
Yeah, TaskBot. Hey, they have their own Twitch channel. It's like 24/7, where they just play the games through that. But it's an AI controlled thing to where it essentially it compiles like all of like the possibilities and it's supposed to give you the flawless run of the game. That's what it's supposed to
Right.
do.
This would be like, and it will pull off
Outside of
things that
glitches.
even. It pulls off things that it that are technically not even possible for humans to pull off, right? Like there was one maneuver in the Super Metroid run that they do that they're like, this is what happens when you're doing this sort of maneuver, but then you're holding left and right at the same time, and they're like, which would obviously be very hard for a human to do, but because this is an AI, they it is able to do it. So it's showing you like this is. And little optimizations happen over the years
Sure.
that they figure out that as things happen. But it's basically like at our current moment, if somebody was able to do the perfect run, this is what it would look like. And so I think TaskBot stuff is cool. It's just if you're part of that community, or if you're not part of that community, I should say, it feels like a lot of those runs stagnate for years up until new optimizations come by. But if you're in that community, there's people who are working night and day tirelessly to try to shave microseconds off to be able to do something. So from that, it's really cool when years go by and you haven't seen a TaskBot run for a little bit and they're like, you guys, we've shaved 3 seconds off, and you're like, I'm sorry, you shaved 3 seconds off of what was supposed to be perfection. How did you end up pulling that off? And then they'll go through and describe the little like I said, just collections of microseconds that they figure out as time goes on, and it's wild.
they were talking about in that one. They were like, yeah, we figured out the the elevator fall or whatever, and it saved 4 seconds. And you're just like, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love this. I think I know I've said it on here before, and I'll say it, but like, if I didn't like playing new games so much, and there wasn't like a new thing, I would speedrun games and just
Find
learn how
one,
to
go
do
hard
it.
on it for a couple years.
Every year they do this, or they do it
Twice
twice a year,
a
I
year
think.
is
But
the
like
main
every time
event.
they do
The
it,
main events.
they will always do an Ocarina of Time one, and every time I watch that, I go, I know that game good enough I could do this. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it in the 24 minutes they
about
do
Jak
it.
and Daxter, dude.
It might take me 3 hours to do, but compared to the 11 hours the game typically takes, like, that would be impressive, right? Because like I could eventually over 20 minutes get the backflip over the corner, like along Hyrule Castle, that would like jump me into a dungeon.
Past
Like, I could do
10,
that.
5 hours,
Given a
5
try.
hours, yeah.
I always
I
want
know
to try
that.
it every time I watch.
That's
this
how I
stuff,
feel.
'cause
Anytime I see the Jak and Daxter runs, like the one that I saw most recently, I was sitting there and I was like, dude, I know this game like the back of my fucking hand. I can do this. Like I can do. But then it's just But then I'm like, I'd have to not play Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and that's just not happening. So.
Fair. Yeah,
But yeah, was that it for you, Preston?
that was my week.
So I'll do mine relatively quickly. Did I talk about Pentiment at all? Did I talk about? Well, I know I talked about it last time, but did I say I beat it? Okay, so I beat Pentiment. It's just as good as everybody said it is. Go play it. Obsidian knows how to fucking write a video game, man.
Yes, they do.
There's just no two ways about it. They know how to craft a story. I legitimately, the ending that they come up with, I shouldn't even say the ending. The whole final chapter and the way it's structured, I did not see coming at all. When that started up and then the things happened, I was like, okay, right on. Of course, it's Obsidian. Why shouldn't I have been? I shouldn't have been surprised that I was surprised. Like, I should have known something else was coming. It is very, very good. It has a lot to say about so many topics. Like it's unsatisfying in a way that like real life sometimes is. Like there's decisions that have to be made when there's no certainty in the out, like in, or not even, there's no certainty in the decision. Like you can't be 100% sure that you've decided something the correct way, right? Like like a situation is presented to you, and you try to decide what you think is right, and there's people who believe that you were wrong, and they let you know every single second that they see you, like, hey, fuckface, like, I didn't forget, and I'm never going to forget, and my kids won't forget, and their kids won't forget. And you're like, you know what? I get it. Like, but also fuck off. Like, because if it's you, and you're like, yeah, but then you know, it's, the game allows you to see it from their perspective, too, and you're like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but I'm in my shoes now, so fuck them. Like, it's weird. Like, it's really well done in that regard, and then it has a lot to say about, like, just history and how stories can get passed along between groups of people, and how sometimes stories don't get passed along, and how people can very quickly, some stories can get lost and misinterpreted over time and then be the main thing. Like, it's incredible. Everybody should go play it. It's a very good game. It sucks that it took me till 2024 to play it, but it's, you know, it's just the nature of that. Number one, that year, but in general, just games, like, you just sometimes you just don't make it to them. But it's, narratively speaking, it is one of the best stories that I've played. It's really, really good. Honestly, my only minor nitpick about it is that I wish there was and this comes into play later, but I wish there was a way to see what time of day it was during the progress, because, like, like, you basically get, like, one major decision-ish that they sort of allow you to flip that a little bit, but for the most part, it's one major decision per section of the day kind of thing. Like, there's, like, it's, like, broken up into, like, 4 or 5, and there's some times where I would be doing something, and then I would be like, what time is it? How many decisions do I have left? And there's just kind of no way to know, and so I'm like, okay, and, like, I just wish that I could know for sure, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. So then after that, I think, did I mention that I had tried Lords of the Fallen on here? Yeah, and then I refunded it because it was for all of it. Cool, so I'll skip past that. I beat Lies of P, which I know I did not say that I beat. I know I said I was playing it. This game, if it was made by From Software, now in its current state, like patch like 1.3 or something, because God knows if they release another patch and break something, I don't want to be on the hook for it. But if at its current moment, if From Software was to release this game and their name was on it, it would be the thing that nobody shut the hell up about. It would be just as big, if not bigger, than Elden Ring. It is incredible. It is so good. The boss design is so fucking awesome. The weapon system, the way they let you customize, like, so, Alex, you'll know this because you played a fuck ton of Elden Ring. There has been times where you would have picked up a weapon probably and said, like, oh, I think this is a cool weapon, or I think that I could do some real damage with this thing, but I don't like this part of its moveset, or I wish I could make it be faster, or in certain cases I wish it was slower, like I wish that it wasn't so fat, and then I wish it was like bigger, heavier swings that were more methodical, you know, whatever, right? This game lets you do that. So they split weapons to, they store basically the moveset of a weapon on its handle, and then the blade is its damage. So, and that's basically all it is, it's just a damage stick. So if you were to say, be like, I really like the rapier, but I want it to have a greatsword on the end of it so that I can stab people with a giant greatsword and not have to worry about big, slow, methodical movements. It's like, yeah, you can do that. You'll take a damage cut by putting it on this smaller handle, but you will then get the rapier moveset with a giant fucking greatsword, and it will scale with strength. Or you can use something to make it start scaling with dexterity if that's what you really wanted it to do. There's the amount of customization it lets you do is so deep that you you can truly make it your own and try to feel as comfortable as possible in this like world. I have two nitpicks. One, I think that the final area is a little long in the tooth for my taste. Like, I am not bullshitting you when I tell you that it starts with like literally storming the beaches of Normandy. Like, you are running along a beach with cannons shooting at you and all this other shit. That final area is like 3 of the regular chapters. Like, each area is broken into a chapter. That final one is about the length of 3 of them. It is wild. Like, it's... And not to say that there's like a lot of downtime or something in there. There's not. And there's a lot of stuff to do during that. But just for me, for my taste, I got to about the halfway point and I was like, I am ready to be out of this area. Like, give me the final boss so that I can smack it up and leave. Like, I don't. But, so the other cool thing. Oh, and then the final nitpick is that, although they have made the parry feel better to the point where I am fine with it now, I still wish it was the Bloodborne parry. That's just my personal thing. If those 2 things were changed, this would be a 10 out of 10. And this is saying is, my
Do they add
sorry.
heft to the parry? Like, does it feel
Yeah,
like you're doing it now?
so-
Okay.
Yeah, it feels better. Like, there's a lot more response in the controller, and it feels like there's a little bit more of a chunk to it when you're doing it. It feels closer to like Sekiro's parry. I know that I'm the only one who played that, but it's not as like tight as that one, but it's pretty close. So
I
it's
played
got
about
it's
4 hours of Sekiro, just not beat it. So
sure, but it's so it's similar to that. It's not quite there, but for discussion purpose, it's okay to think about it like that. The coolest thing that it does is that it's hidden, but there's a hidden sort of meter that as you perfect parry bosses' weapons, it does durability damage to them, and they will break. You can break every single boss's weapon eventually, which is very cool. Obviously, like there's plenty of times where a boss will be doing something to you and you can just be sitting there and blocking it, and then all of a sudden their weapon breaks and you can see their character is just like, well, I guess I'm fucked. And you're like, yeah, you are. This is the end for you, and I will be moving past you very shortly. And then there's some bosses whose like their durability is so high that it's like, if you really wanted to, you could sit here and break this weapon, but you can just fight it and it'll be okay. But that was gonna be my thing. And then the other little minor thing, this is not a nitpick because it's a personal taste thing, but if this aesthetic was anything else, I'd be way more. I just don't care about like dark Pinocchio. But if that is your thing, you will. By the end of it, they nail it so hard, and the DLC that comes with it, I don't want to spoil for anybody because I know Alex is going to check it out eventually. When I saw it, I got way more hyped for it's not the DLC, but the next installment, like the next game that they plan on doing, or like the next property, I should say. When I saw it, I was like, man, you guys might be doing something. Like,
I like the aesthetic a lot.
Yeah.
I found I after you said that they fixed some things, I definitely am going to go back to it. It's still downloaded on my Steam Deck. The only complaint I had, minus what you were saying, like I experienced the same thing with the parry. The only other complaint I had, and I probably need more time, was that this game is, in my opinion, it was harder than like Elden Ring. I honestly thought Elden Ring was you're just now getting, but I almost felt like sometimes it was harder because of like the weird placement of their ranged enemies. So they would put ranged enemies where you wouldn't necessarily be able to see them, and sometimes you're getting shot from behind. You're like, I can't even, like, I'm not even, it's not even possible for me to identify you're there. So at first you're like, that's kind of feels like cheating. You made it hard,
there's definitely some. Elden Ring didn't have that as much because it's open world, so they couldn't. But there's older Souls games that do that. I mean, Bloodborne has it sometimes. Like, there is definitely still like this moments where you're walking in and then something drops down in front of you and it's like, haha, we got you, and you're like, that's fun, except it's not, and I don't need to be tricked anymore. Like, just let me play the game, please. I don't care about being tricked anymore. This is like, it was funny. If this is my personal opinion, but it's like it was really funny during Demon Souls when I did it for the first time. It's a lot less funny my 10th time around. So like,
Yeah, when you're on 4, 5, 6, 7 of these games, you're just like, okay, I
I'm
just
done.
wanna do it.
Yeah, the next time, like every single time the floor would drop out from under me and I would like land in an arena, I was like, okay, all right, this is fun. I don't know who it's fun for, but I guess it's fun. Like I was like but that's just to personal taste. But yeah, I agree with but so the thing is they really do want you to play it like Blood. Like it has the same rally mechanic, right? And then there's like this whole like perk system that happens further into the game, like within like the first few hours that happens that let you sort of like augment things. And it's like I said, the amount of customization in it is so cool. It's very, very well done. And if you, to your point, Alex, like if a dark Disney or like a dark Pinocchio is your jam, they nail it harder than I think anybody has ever nailed a property. I just personally don't like. They were naming off characters that I'm quite positive are in a Pinocchio lore of some kind, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I was just like, I don't know, and I don't care. Like, but it's, even as somebody who is like, I could take or leave this aesthetic, there's no way that anybody can walk away from it and be like, and not think it's well done. It's extremely well done. It's just up to your personal taste.
I'm interested to know what that other property you say is, because like this one they were able to do because Pinocchio is so much of a it's a Disney property, but they did it off of the story of Pinocchio,
Right.
the same one
Yeah.
that Disney did, right? So they're like, well, we're not ripping off Disney, we're pulling from the fair use version. So
A similar situation is happening here for the next game, and I really, like I said, I desperately want to tell you because when I saw it, I was like, dude, this is going to be so good. But I was like, I don't, I got very hyped. I thought it was really cool. But yeah, it's a great game. I'm very happy that they fixed it, or at least I guess fixed it to my taste, I should say. But it seems like that update clicked with a lot of people too, because there's a lot of people who went back and played it for the first time.
And to its credit, there were a lot of people that just played it the first time. I know.
And people liked it.
Right? It was he played it and really, really liked it. There's a few people I know that like just liked it flat out and didn't have the same complaints that you had.
Yeah, which again, that's all up to personal feel, right? Like that's not so more power to everybody like that got into it. But it's just for me, as soon as that update hit, I went back, tried it, and I was like, this feels good enough for me to like get through my initial complaints for it, and then I was able to see the rest of the game, and there's a lot of stuff in there. It's really, really deep and it's cool, and they're the way they handle the Pinocchio aspect of lying or telling the truth and like what that does to you is very neat. They really get after it in a way that you're like, right on, man. Like I thought it was cool. Still playing Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. I gotta tell you guys. So I know that I'm not like, I am also not well versed in Warhammer lore, and I know I'm talking to two people who also are not versed in Warhammer lore. But we do know that, at least I think we all know, that the Space Marines are like super hardcore religious zealots for the God Emperor, and basically everything else that's not them is like heretical, basically. I am having the hardest, because I think the Space Marine power armor is the coolest thing in the world.
You don't like them?
I'm having the hardest time not being one of them. There's so many times where I've
Christian's basically saying he's trying not to be a space Nazi, but he really wants to be a space Nazi.
Yeah, because they're so cool. Like it's like there's so many times where like a character will say something, like one of the psychers that's in the group is like talking about something, and I'm like, yeah, I totally agree with you. And then battle. It's like the battle mothers or something like that is what they're called. It's the girl that's on your team, which is like a sick ass name. But she's when she's talking to you, but she's like, no, like she's like telling the other person like shut, like absolutely shut your mouth, you heretic. Like you are dancing really dangerously close to like me putting like blowing your head off right now. Like stop talking. We need to just like stomp out this rebellion. Like blah blah blah. And I'm like, and I so badly want to be like, is there a compromise that we can find between the two of you that will not make both of you leave this team? Because I like both of you for very different reasons, and one of you is just purely aesthetic, but boy, do I really like the aesthetic that you are giving off. And the other one is personality based, and I agree with you, like wholeheartedly, but there's this other person here who's very cool, and I don't know, like...
I know, to your point, I know nothing about Warhammer 40K other than like the characters, right? The figurines and stuff like that. But because of the things that we like, right? Like, and I do like the dark fantasy piece we just talked about, like the old like industrial age England and stuff. But the other side of that, and we saw it in that Warhammer game that was like the team arena shooter sort of thing. I love that whole aesthetic of like the huge like church-looking ships and like the big gothic gothic like areas. It's so
you get in Rogue Trader you get your own basically like empire ship. It's like a full like nation state that is a ship, like it's that big. And you get to name it. So I named it after one of the Halo ships, the Shadow of Intent. So I named it that. And then like you get to just, it's so deep. Like it really is, you know, like again, I think calling it Baldur's Gate 3 is a little bit of a disservice because, or it's not fair because like it really is only like Baldur's Gate 3 in that it's a CRPG, but there's so much, like it does not, it's like a good chunk of the game is not voice acted. I would say like it's like a 60-40 split. Like 60% is voice acted and 40% is just you're just reading. It's way closer to a Divinity Original Sin 2, like Larian's other game before Baldur's Gate 3. So it's way closer to that. But that being said, the quality of the writing and like the quality of everything happening there is absolutely on par. Like there's so like I just broke up. There was a, you know, this is not spoilery, but it was. I was just walking through this zone. I'm trying to find the governor of this planet that I'm on, and I walk in and I immediately find like this like crazy like heretic like ritual that's happening where it's these people who believe that like to get closer to their particular like chaos god that they're worshiping or whatever, they need to get their eyes burned out so that they get one look at their true god and then they can't see anything else to like, you know, do it like that. And so like this, they do a lot of, for moments like that, they basically put like a page in front of you and then they have like these hand sketched moments of like each like moment that's happening and like the page will flip and so you get to see this like really like well done art that's like describe like showing you what's happening in the scene that your character is looking at. And so you're seeing this moment of like these people like peeling this dude's eyes back and like holding it while this magnifying glass is like burning the shit. And then you're like you get to choose options and you know rolls happen in the background that decide whether that succeeded, fails, and blah blah blah. There's so much like I feel like I'm learning so much about Warhammer that it's like it makes me want to go and play the other games in the series to like figure out like just try to absorb as much of it as I can because like I met one of the half machine people that like they spend most of their time like basically like as like they don't see like the world like regular people do. Like they believe that there's a machine god that has been building this whole thing. It's like this whole thing, and so talking to them and getting his perspective on things, like it's wild, dude. Like
that world has insane factions. Like I played like a, we used the rule set of like Starfinder for it, but it was a story based in Warhammer 40K, And the way the orgs are like super different as far as like compared to fantasy and normal fantasy. Like riding asteroids like into like planets as like ships and stuff like that are insane.
And so with the orcs thing, I haven't met one yet, but like the one that I know of in Space Marine in the game that I've played before, is like they have the power of like belief. So like they believed that painting their ships red would make them faster, and so it did.
Yeah.
So like they paint their ships like this blood red, and they go faster than normal ships because they're like, no, dude, painting red goes faster. Like the same thing. They will like, well, if this asteroid is already heading that way, man, let's just hop on and fucking ride it and slam it into a planet. Like, who gives a shit? Like, it's so wild. Like, everything is just, like, turned up to the way, like, degree. I won't go too much. I don't have... I'll just keep rambling about it if I'm allowed. But it's been really fun to play. And then the other thing that I've played is 14. They released their new patch. I got the new... Alex, I sent you the video. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it. You're muted still. You're muted. You are muted.
I know. I said I was going to do that too. Yeah, I read about the patch before you sent that article, but I actually haven't seen the Manderville weapon or anything yet, so I don't know what it looks like.
So, just like always, it's, they're hit or miss. Like, some of them are bangers, some of them are not.
What patch is this?
It's 6.55. I sent you the video. If you go onto our text thread, it's like the third video. I sent the video.
He's already on his computer.
Finally, I am happy to report that White Mage has gotten a good weapon.
Good.
And it looks cool. So your boy is happy. I think the people, and Alex, you might be able to agree with me if you click through some of these. The people who got done the dirtiest was Samurai, for sure. Samurai gets done so dirty in this one.
It's like a long sword, but like it's got like a weird laser beam on it.
And that's it. And you're like,
I don't like
okay.
the warrior one, to be honest with you.
I like the older warrior one way better, and I like the older paladin one way better.
Sages is dope.
So, yeah, so like a lot of the casting classes and a lot of the DPS classes.
You know what? Dragoon's not awful.
Yes, I like the Dragoon. I think Dragoon it was a glow up. Because the last Dragoon one was not good, but I think Dragoon did well. The tanks got shafted a little bit, and then the Samurai one is awful. I think it's the most like plain weapon that I've ever seen. But all the other ones I think look good. But that's just how it goes. There's some, sometimes it giveth and sometimes it taketh away. Like
that's true, because like I was living the high life when my warrior weapon was like that big bright white circle axe, and
yes.
they were like, yeah, you don't get that next time around.
Yeah.
Sorry, fam.
And every single patch, White Mage always got done so fucking dirty, and finally this time it's good. So I'm happy about that. I haven't finished the new story content, but what I've played of it, I have liked very much. They introduce the new, like, I guess who will be the main, like, your party friend for the new expansion. So she's the female Hrothgar that we see in the new trailer that they released at the Tokyo version of FanFest. It's fantastic. It immediately got me excited for Dawntrail, which that's not like it's not like I wasn't already excited for it, but it immediately got me like, I was just like, man, like Alex knows because we had just played the most recent patches, but like the like we're going on an adventure music starts to swell up, and you're just like, man, they're gonna do good. Like I have full faith in that team already. But you're just like, you guys are gonna do it. Like
Yoshi P said recently that if he was fired from his job directing this game, he would get hired back on at the ground level as a contract worker because he loves doing this game so much.
Yeah, like, and you can just tell, man. Like he's a great like it's all that is great. As for somebody that we don't know, but it's. Man, like you can just tell there's a lot of care that goes in. Like they don't. I think the pressure is not lost on them, right? Like you've had over a decade of this story that you just closed off, and now it's time for the new chapter, and with it is going to come a massive graphical update and new characters, and you're resetting the stakes, right? Like the world is, you're redefining what those stakes mean anymore, right? And you still have to try to find a way to make that interesting, but so far it's like they're doing it. I'm very excited. I can't wait. But that's it. That's all I've played.
All right. Well, we do have a topic for today. We're putting the Video Game Book Club on hold. I'm going to ask a question here at the end. We might have one prepared for the next couple of weeks. But topic I wanted to do was a console check-in. We haven't done one of those for a hot minute. So I wanted to kind of see the state of our consoles. I mean, we all got the new next-gen or current-gen ones, I should say. I would like to touch on the PS5 and the Xbox first, because I know that we are pretty much at the end of this just going to sing praises for Steam Deck all the way through. So
True.
Before we get to that part of it,
Those other two, I'm not. Other two things you just said. PlayStation, Xbox. I don't know what you're talking about.
you don't touch them, right?
Nintendo Switch who?
Yeah.
Actually, I've touched my Nintendo Switch more recently
Mario.
than either of these other consoles.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really use them that much anymore. I mean, on occasion, like GameFly will send me a disc, and they don't do it for PC, so I'll pop it in the PlayStation. But other than that, if I'm not getting through GameFly, it might be maybe Game Pass. Game Pass I'll play a little bit more because I'll whip out the Xbox for that.
Let's specifically talk about PlayStation first.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
You got rid of PlayStation
Plus about a year ago or
Plus
something like that.
online, whatever they want to call it, right? And I did too, but I know you got rid of it. Is there anything you miss, or how has that affected just your general gaming experience?
It was affecting a little bit the fact that like I couldn't play like Guilty Gear Strive online or anything like that. As far as like if Christian wanted to play Strive, I wouldn't be able to play. I would just pay for that month of PlayStation Plus, to be fair. But maybe Steam had a sale today, and maybe I bought Guilty Gear Strive on PC for $20. Who knows? Who's to say? Other than that,
Who is to say?
but other than that, no, man. Like it's either a PlayStation exclusive, so like Spider-Man 2, I had to play on my PS5, or it's something I get through GameFly. That's the only reason why I really use my PlayStation 5 outside of if I feel like using the streaming apps on there for shows. But other than that, I think the store's garbage. I hate their interface on PlayStation 5. Like it's kind of simple to where you can kind of get past it, but as far as everything else that I have, it is definitely the worst interface.
I try and think to last year, like the entirety of the year, because I got rid
played
of
Spider-Man too.
I think I got
Spider-Man too.
I think I got rid of the online service like at the beginning of last year. I played 16 on it,
That's true.
'Cause I
That's
had
two of
to.
those,
That's
yeah.
true. So that's two of those.
right?
Yeah.
I played Spider-Man on it, and I think in the entire year, those are the only two games I turned my PlayStation on for, which is crazy to think about. And what's even more crazy is like I actually played 16 behind me on the couch in the office sort of thing. I didn't even do that with Spider-Man. I played Spider-Man remote play on my iPad down in the living room with Allie, like while she was watching TV and stuff. So I didn't take advantage of the hardware. You know what I mean? Like I just used the controller on an iPad, and it still looked gorgeous because the iPad looks gorgeous. But like, for those that like the PlayStation, more power to you, because like I get it. Everybody has their preference on console and so on.
It's
and
my favorite controller out of all of them, for sure. Like, I still love the PlayStation 5 controller. It feels the best to me. I'm not saying that the other ones are bad. It's just that's the best feeling one.
So I'm opposite, like just personal preference.
Yeah,
It is
it
too
really
big
is.
for my
It really
hands,
is.
just personally. I like the Xbox one better. Now, it definitely has the best, in my opinion, tech, right? Like the haptic feedback and stuff is incredible. But
yeah.
the crazy thing is like that also works remote play on iPad. So like when I was playing there, I was still getting all of that, which is awesome for them. Like more power to them. So if that's your main console, if that's your go-to, like awesome for you. It's not discounting the console, but because everybody talks about on Sony exclusives. That's what I love about it. They have the best exclusives and so on. I mean, this year was literally just two. Like I played Spider-Man in Final Fantasy, and if it wasn't for that, I would have gone the entire year without touching this console. Like that's how little of an impact, in my opinion, their exclusive business has been right now. And because of that, I had no urge to buy their Portal, because why would I need a Portal when I can do the same thing I did on the iPad, right? And I had those two things already. Like, so I don't know. Like, I think Sony is in a weird spot right now where I think they could be doing. I'm not saying they're doing bad, right? I don't want to get harped on by
That's
anybody.
the whole issue, is that since they're not doing bad, they don't really care to do a whole lot.
But I think they could be doing better. Like, I think they could be doing better with new IP or pushing the boundaries of doing other stuff. Instead, they seem to keep tapping the well of, well, we've never done like let's do a God of War DLC and tap that well. Let's use Naughty Dog. Instead of working on something new, we'll just have them redo The Last of Us 2, right? Like, I feel like they're playing it really safe. And because of that, for somebody like me that has options of a PC, of a Steam Deck, and of an Xbox, I go, I'm just not going to touch you this year. Maybe I'll come back to you next year. I don't know, but like, I'm just not going to touch you at all. And I'm one person, so I don't make a difference in that business. But there has to be more than just me out there that looks this past year and go, I bought this console for the exclusives that I say I love, and really I wasn't given what I was promised.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's weird. So like, I obviously, as the person who has literally like a full shelf of all the like consoles that I've owned over the years, right? So, but I've used that console for 16, and I used it for Alan Wake 2 because I don't want to buy anything on the Epic Game Store. I'm not trying to get into the whole like fucking, oh, I love Epic or I don't like Epic or blah blah blah. I personally
just in case anybody heard that and goes, oh, you also played PlayStation for Alan Wake? No, I did get it on the Epic Store, so mine is on PC, so I didn't even touch it for that.
Yeah, I just don't like them. I don't like their store setup. I don't need more launchers. I think that I just don't need it. Like, it's just where I'm at. But Remedy is, all their PC deals go through Epic, and then they come to Steam years later, if at all, right? So there's nothing that somebody can do about it. So in that regard, like, I think going forward, I will always have a console,
Sure,
right? That will be able to play the things that I own on it, and then I can go from there. And I don't want to lose that library either. Like, I have a lot of digital PS4 stuff that I don't want to get rid of. I have a lot of physical PS4 stuff that I want to get rid of. So in that respect, like, I want to keep that. Not saying, the problem is, right, is that it's like, I don't know. I think it's harder for me to justify some of these consoles because they don't. A lot of times the games aren't on the disc anyway, right? Like, it's just essentially like a download code that's on that disc. Like, there's some games that are playable from their disc, but there's a lot today that are not. But I like it because there's times where it allows me to get around things that I don't want to do. Like, I really wanted to play Alan Wake 2, and I would have preferred to play it on my PC and be able to do it on Steam Deck, but I don't want to use the Epic Game Store, so it being on Play was just the easiest way for me to do it, right? And that's where I owned the remastered version because of the first game, for the same reason, because of that remaster only being released on the Epic Game Store because they want people to fucking download it so badly.
I thought that one was on Steam now. They do have... Is it...
No, they have original Alan Wake. Yeah, Control's on... And then it's original Alan Wake, the Games for Windows Live one, but not the remaster that they did. The remaster is gonna, if what I understand, they have no plans on bringing it anywhere else, which sucks. But whatever. But yeah, I'm mostly in the same boat, man. Like, and it's mostly because the way that I interact with games has changed now. Like, it's way easier for me to play through games when, like, my wife and I are sitting there, like, she's doing her own thing, like, either she's watching something on TV or she's reading, and then I can pull out my Steam Deck and do my thing, right? Like, and play, and we can be right next to each other doing, and like, hanging out and still doing a thing. Whereas like if I want to play something on those consoles, like I have to take over the TV. Like then the option is like, well, get a Portal, and I'm like, no, like just let me. What you should do is just let me download that fucking app on my Steam Deck, and the same honestly the same goes for. There are ways to get, obviously, the Xbox will let you do cloud gaming through the Steam Deck, and it works fucking fantastically.
Yes,
but I also would like a remote play app that I could just connect to the fucking X. But then that also brings up, like, I can just use Moonlight by that point and just get onto the Xbox PC app on my own computer and run it like that if I really want to.
I've been using Moonlight. That's how I played Alan Wake on the Steam Deck when I needed to. Travis recommended that to me.
Moonlight
and
rules.
It was flawless. Flawless.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. But yeah, so it's my biggest problem is that whenever I load up the PlayStation, I'm just like, to your point, Preston, I don't like anything about this. Like, I don't like the menu system. I don't like how it works. I hate the storage limitations on it.
Battery life, the controller is not great. You get like 2-3 hours.
The battery life, I always leave it plugged in. Like, but I also I do like that controller a lot.
Yes.
But it's hard to, like, when I want to sit back and it's like knowing that, like, in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, I'm going to have to plug this shit back in.
You know what did it? You know where I think it started? This dislike of this generation of PlayStation for me kind of started in the fact that, like, they got rid of themes. So they took away the personalization on the UI and said, you're now stuck with what we think you want, which are a ton of advertisements and like hidden achievements that other people may be getting, and then we'll even block some of that. Like we don't even let you see your own achievements sometimes. It started there, and with the hardware itself, where they're like, we have 2 faceplates, and people are like, well, we're gonna make our own, and they did such a campaign to stop these third-party companies from again limiting your personalization, and they go, oh, we'll do it for you, and then they say, but you can only have the 4 colors that we choose that match. And it's like, I don't want magenta, and I don't want your purple, and I don't want your blue. They quashed like personalization out of the gate with this generation, and that's kind of a problem to me.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just personalization. I think that they went into just a full-on tilt, and obviously Jim Ryan is gone now, so maybe this will change, right? But his era has all been anti-consumer, in my opinion. I mean, every single decision he's ever made was at the dismay of Sony customers. Like, I am giving you the shitty versions of games you don't want because, and for the audio listeners, I flipped off the camera. I'm giving you shitty versions of a new online tier system that you didn't ask for because go fuck yourself. Like, I'm doing all sorts of different things. Like every single decision that they made was just basically spitting in the face of the consumers and being like, look, stop complaining to us about all these different things because you know you're going to show up and buy Spider-Man and you know you're going to show up and buy Final Fantasy, so fuck off. Stop yelling at me. Like, and that's truly how it feels. And so I would try my best outside of those 2 exclusives, which, whatever. Like, there's an option. It's like I could have waited on 16 and I could have waited on Alan Wake 2 to do something else, right? But yeah, it's tough. Like it sucks because I think that eventually, like at least once once a year, there will probably be an exclusive that comes out on Sony's consoles that I will want. Like, this year it happened to be Final Fantasy 16. Next year, or this year, I mean, I don't know. Which one?
7 remake. 7
remake.
Rebirth
is on Steam.
Oh, is it?
Day and date, yeah. Yes, but that's a good point. It's like, so then after that, it's like I don't know. Like, but I'm sure there will be. I haven't looked at the full years for it, but I got to imagine there's one, right? But that's I don't know what they. Hopefully, this new CEO, starts to get the ship back in order and maybe gets people back on their side, because I think that I will always own a console, and at least one, just for multiple, even to Preston's point, just for it being a multimedia device that I can use to watch and play things. Like there's always going to be a console in the home, but which one that is and relies entirely upon these people and their decisions and how they do things. That's how I feel about the PlayStation 5, at least.
Okay. So I mean, obviously next up would be the Xbox.
Yeah.
I got a Series S, and it does great for me. I mean, the main mule behind that, in front of that card, is Game Pass, right? It's what's pulling it for me, 9 times out of 10. Love dabbling. I always get to dabble, and they do a very good job at putting very good games on that Game Pass. There was a trailer just today for that new fucking Indiana Jones game made by the Wolfenstein guys. Game Pass day and date. I'm like, fuck yes. I'm like, that's super cool, because I would have definitely paid money for that game, but it's on Game Pass, so I'm going to play it on my Xbox for sure.
Yep.
But I like the interface more of Xbox. It gives you your recent like kind of squares, and then just easy go up to choose your games and apps, and it's just really quick to get through to everything from there. Of course, I got my little old Xbox theme behind there. It's always giving me nostalgia boosts, but other than that, it's a Game Pass machine. It's pretty much what it is for me.
Yeah, Xbox is a weird one for me. Just because, like, if I think back to how I used it last year, I played a majority of Hi-Fi Rush on it, and I turned it on for Starfield.
Yeah.
But beyond that, and we played TNMT, Shredder's Revenge, together on it. But beyond that, like, I haven't touched it. But it's different. That's actually different, though, than the Sony one, right? Like, Sony didn't touch because there wasn't anything there pulling me. Microsoft actually did the opposite. They had a ton of games that pulled me into their universe. But, Preston, to your point, it's just my Game Pass machine, right? Like, because Game Pass is such an amazing service, and like I know we talk about it, I'm not gonna like love on Game Pass here, but because it does what it does so well, I can play those Game Pass games on the console I prefer playing on, which is this PC sitting here right beside me, because then I can have like my non-Microsoft and Sony games along with my Microsoft games and so on, right? And my Steam games. And on top of that, I can then play my Game Pass games on my Steam Deck. And it's not like a roundabout way. Microsoft puts the instructions on their website and says, hey man, you guys want to do it, like, here, have it, right? Unlike Sony, that like you really have to do some workarounds. And on top of all of that, if I don't have my Steam Deck or whatever, like I played Game Pass games, I played Halo this year on iPad in a hotel when I was traveling for work, and like that. So that's the thing, like the console itself, it's still not my favorite UI. I think it's a little better than PlayStation, but it's still not like what I like in an interface, but I could kind of take the console or leave it, but I could not take or leave the service. Like the service allows me to play everything I want to play, and pulled me in. Like I played Star Wars there. I played a lot of things that hit on Game Pass day one. I just played them where I preferred, which I actually think is like that is pro consumer. So yeah, console itself is a good console. I haven't really touched it, but the service I touch all the time.
All the time. Yeah. So, and which I think is what Phil Spencer has said is his mission, right? He doesn't really give a shit whether or not you buy their box anymore. He wants you to be a Xbox Live Game Pass subscriber, and after that, he doesn't really give a shit. Which sucks and doesn't, right? And for me. So, I think I agree with everything you guys both said. I think it is my favorite console of the two. I personally like the UI, and I think their newest version of the UI is the best one that they've done. Like, it allows for a pretty heavy level of customization. You can do like all these different, things going on in the background, doing all this other stuff. I really appreciate that. I like a lot of the social features. Like, I like the fucking like clubs that like we have, like the stupid dub versus sub one that we made, where if you were on that console a lot or on the thing, you could send, screenshots and videos and recordings and all sorts of those things, right? So I think from that perspective, it's really cool. It's a good thing to use. And I really like all the backwards compatibility shit they pulled off this year. I think that stuff is fucking awesome to see. And I love how it does more than just plays the game. It fucking throws the full power of the console behind it. So if Alex and I are ever one of these days where we're like, I'll go back to Morrowind, or Alex is like, I'm going to go back to Oblivion, but then we'll play it at 120 FPS at all this crazy-ass resolution. That's fucking cool. Like, I love that they have put that experience into a box. And and with Game... I won't retread over the same thing you guys said with Game Pass, because I totally agree. And I agree with Alex on the PC side of it, but that brings me to my point of, this will probably be the last Xbox console that I own. Because there's no reason, now that I have something that will play all of my Xbox One games, and then I have a 360, and I have an original Xbox, but then if I ever wanted to go and play, souped up versions of certain, because not all of the games made that jump, right? Like, there was licensing and issues that they ran into, but a good chunk of them did. Most of the games that you would ever want to play made it, but like, for instance, for Preston and I, and it'll never make it because of the licensing issues, but Jet Set Radio Future is not on that list, right? Like, you have to have a original Xbox to be able to play that game, or do emulation and all the other stuff. But that's kind of what sucks. Is it's like I like this. I've always liked owning an Xbox of some kind, and I have always liked. But we've gotten to the point now where, again, like most games that come on the disc are not, or most of those games are not on the disc all the way. For all those same and so it's like, well, if that's the case, then there's kind of no reason for me, as much as it pisses me off, to buy physical media anymore for these new things. So it's like, well, if that's the case, then I want to get it somewhere where I have the most control over something, and that's Steam, right? Or in better examples like the GOG launcher, like that, where it does DRM free versions of games and all that other stuff, right? Which is great. I love that. But to that same point, like, I think this Series X that I have will be the last Xbox console that I probably ever own, because it would be silly to buy another one just to have another place to store digital games outside of the already massive digital library that I've already started owning on Steam, right? So it wouldn't make any sense to do that, but I will always keep this one for the backwards compatibility. The same reason that I have a 360 and the same reason I have an Xbox original, right? So like, I will never get rid of this one, and I like it, and it does what I want it to do, and it does it well. But like, fuck, man, like, it's weird that it's like, you're like, you guys have done the best job that you've done, and it's really good, but you've now made it to the point where, because the parity is almost 1-to-1 with the Xbox PC app and then the regular Xbox, it's like, okay, well then it's kind of, it sucks, but it's kind of silly for me to own this going forward. Like, if all of these games are always going to come to the Xbox PC app and there's never going to be a console exclusive again, which for consumers is the best option, right? Like, I'm not advocating that they don't do that, but it does make it so it's like, okay, well then, because I'm one of your consumers that has a PC, financially speaking, it makes the most sense to not own one anymore.
For sure.
Which sucks, but just because I like owning those, that's why I have fucking 9 of them right next to me. It's like, I love owning hardware, but it's gotten less and less relevant.
Yeah, not necessary.
Yeah.
Switch. It's a very basic interface. There's nothing special about that. But I pick it. I always need a Nintendo machine, right? I want to play the new Mario. I want to play whatever new Zelda comes out, things of that nature. But I think they do a really good job with the Virtual Console. Some of them aren't the greatest ports, but most of them, that the really big ones that you want to get, are not bad. So they just released Golden Sun, the DLC that came out for it. So I'm super stoked to play with that for like an hour or two, and probably not play the rest of it. But it's there for me if I want to, and it's free with my subscription. So that's awesome. But I do think they're doing a really good job of keeping those up to date and adding to those libraries. I'm very curious to see is when they make their next step, if it's a Switch Pro, obviously they'll be there. But if they go to like a whatever the next Switch is, whatever the new console they want to make, they need to keep that service and bring it over. They cannot do what they've been doing to the past couple systems, to where it's like, oh, now we have a new virtual console menu kind of thing, and we're just going to start rebuilding those all over again. Like, no, you can't do that again. No, it's got to come over with it. So as long as that happens, that would be great. But
I think it would be the biggest. Financially, I don't think it'll hurt them at all. I think Nintendo fans, no matter what, will buy the new console, show up, and
Sure.
buy a copy of Super Mario 64 for the 150th time, right? Like they're gonna do it. So whatever. But I think from a purely like optics perspective, it would be the biggest, like, dumbest decision ever to not just do a Switch 2. Like every console Nintendo has ever done has been different, right? Which on one hand, I love that you're always doing something new, and regardless of whether it hits for me or not, looking at you, Wii U, you're at least doing it, right? Like, you're doing something. But at the end of it, it's like you have recaptured what people loved about, like, you've recaptured basically the Wii and you just need to do the Switch too. Like, just make the Switch again, but make it more powerful, and have everybody's games come over, and you won't hear anything. That console will sell like it has never sold before. People will be excited. They will be happy, and I would be one of them. As somebody who only uses the Switch for when random Nintendo games come out that I feel like playing, I still will be like, fucking hell yeah.
because it also
And
released with
now-
a Mario game or a Zelda game, so you're like, I was going to play that anyway, so now I got to get it. Yeah.
Or in my case, it'll be a Pokemon game that actually can run well now.
Sure.
And I'll be like, great,
Yeah.
this is fantastic that I now have this option. But like, yeah, like that's, I do use the Switch, like, whenever there is a game that, like, when I was playing Tears of the Kingdom, it was like, cool. And honestly, the Switch is a lot of what I like about the versatility of the Steam Deck, which is the Switch and your TV is a lot like your Steam Deck and your PC,
Sure.
right? So, like, me having that option and being able to use that option the way that I need to or want to at the time is fantastic. And if they get rid of that and do something else, and I don't know what I would do, but it would be very stupid, and I would be upset about it, and I don't know that I would buy their next thing because of it. Like, that's how mad it would make me. Like, I would just be like, you know what, fine, but I'll keep the Switch, and that's what I'm gonna have, and you guys can just, whenever you stop making games for it, is when you stop making games for it. Fantastic. And that's, whatever.
Sure.
But I think that they've recaptured lightning in a bottle in a way that they haven't done since the Wii. That, in a lot of ways, right, the Wii U was supposed to be the sequel to the Wii. Like, all of your old shit worked on the Wii
Yeah.
U. Like, your Wiimotes and all that other shit worked. It was just, they included this stupid tablet that nobody wanted.
They
That,
had to use.
but had that, I truly believe this, had that tablet been taken out of the equation and the Wii U was just a more powerful Wii that was playing Blu-ray games, that was all this
Would've
stuff,
been gangbusters.
and it still brought all the other stuff, people would have bought the shit out of that thing.
For me, I mean, mix of what you guys said, like, to your point, Preston, I have to have a Nintendo machine, right? Like, it just, because a lot of their stuff, it's my Zelda machine, it's my Mario machine, and it is my random Monster Hunter machine when they decided to do one just for
Exclusive one,
Nintendo and not release it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I have to have it, but at the same time, I actually think it's easier to justify because it's the cheapest console. Right, like, it's cheap. I'm not paying $500
I mean, it
for
always
PlayStation,
is,
or
yeah.
and it always is. So, like, that I appreciate. I can justify a couple $100 for this Nintendo machine that doesn't get used as much. But when I when I do use it, here's the key: the experience is pretty consistent.
And I think you're
Like,
getting those
all of the-
experiences more often as far as exclusive things that you need the console for. Nintendo's pumping out Nintendo properties throughout the year, not just one or two, three maximum. No, they're pumping out 4 or 5 plus throughout the year, and that's just me lowballing.
And they're all quality. Like Mario was polished as hell, Zelda was polished as hell. Like the games were great games, and Monster Hunter Rise, super polished and an incredible game, right? So it's hard to say like I can't have that. And to your point, Christian, like I appreciate that it is like the Steam Deck, right? I can play it in my hand on the go. It's what I took to Japan with me because it's so lightweight and easy to carry, and had decent battery life. But when I'm here in the office and I'm playing Rise with you guys, I can play on a big TV with a controller that fits my hand better because I have fat thumbs, or at least a fat thumb, even fatter one over here. So it's like it's very versatile. I do hope they do a Switch 2. I hope they do a more powerful Switch 2. I hope it can handle things at just a higher graphical fidelity, right? Because, like, just give me the pretty lights. But beyond that, like, I'm happy with the games that I get. It's not where I'm going to go to download all of my games, but it's where I'm going to go to download all those Nintendo games. And I actually appreciate the interface.
Yes,
Keep it
simple.
It's nothing but my tiles of the games that I want. And I love that. Like, thank you for that. So I'm happy. I'm happy with the Switch. I'm excited to see what they do next. I hope it is just a more powerful version. But yeah, I'm happy with what it has to offer. Sure. Because it's consistent. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And if you are let down, you're not let down in a way where you're like overpromise, underdeliver, or it's anti-consumer. You're just let down in a way of like, well, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo.
Yeah,
Like,
they underpromised and then they underdelivered.
They never said you would have a good online experience. They just said, like, if it's here if you want it. But they did it in a Nintendo way. So you're not let down because you knew it was going to be crap.
Yeah, they said we will have an online experience, and somehow you were like, this is worse than I expected, but thank you.
Because these deviants who want to play Splatoon, we have to give them an online server.
Yeah.
I know.
So at least they're consistent, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that leaves lastly the PC/Steam Deck, which I think has kind of taken over most of our lives when it comes to the gaming platforming we do. I definitely know as soon as I got mine that's honestly, outside of a couple Gamecast games I went to Xbox for, that's pretty much all I was playing. I mean, there's Mario was there, but any game now that I'm thinking about, I'm like, it's probably gonna go on Steam sale within like at least 3 months, 3-4 months, so I'll at least get a discount off of it, and then also it's just gonna be right there waiting for me just to press a little fucking button, and then I'm off to the races. And the customization on that console, dude, I spent like an hour last night just going through my home screen of like, okay, I want to change the main art on this, I want to change the hero art here, I want to change the banner art over here, and I got this.
End up doing that like.
I know. The Baldur's Gate one I got for the banner, the hero banner or whatever, it looks like a Final Fantasy XIV concept art with just the Baldur's Gate characters in it, and looks phenomenal. Celeste has a really good anime looking one that I just got downloaded onto there. And I got Sonic Adventure 2 on there from that Humble Bundle for the Awesome Games Done Quick. And I pulled up some sick-ass fucking Dreamcast logo. Like, it's like box art for it up there.
Oh,
and
it's
great.
so good.
So great.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, I think that it's, everybody has this experience when they try the Steam Deck, but if you haven't had one, it's something that you need, because it fundamentally changes the way that you enjoy it. It's to the point where it's informed my purchasing decisions. Like, if I look at a game and it's like, hey, this doesn't run, it runs like shit on Steam Deck, or it can't run on Steam Deck, then I'm like, all right, then I don't really feel like getting it. And that's just where it's at. Or if I do get it, I know that it will be I'm only going to play this on my desktop, and I can wait for it to go on sale. But like, I think that it really pushes forward the notion, is something that I've always supported, which is like, I'm good with how games look now.
Yeah.
I don't need the next graphical leap or whatever. Like, thinking through my playthroughs of Final Fantasy 16 and Alan Wake 2, some of the most striking games that I've seen in a really long time. Same thing with Baldur's Gate 3 for parts of it. It is like, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like most of the time Baldur's Gate 3 is what I would prefer, or it does what I think is the right thing to do, which is like, since it's isometric and it's pulled out or whatever, like, it's allowed, it can, one, it runs on the Steam Deck, but two, it like, you can tell that it is not, the graphics of Baldur's Gate 3 out of certain moments where everything is like brought in and like a cutscene is happening. The graphics are not. It's the calculations and the shit that's behind that makes that game heavy. But like it's not a graphically dense game. Like the environment in the game looks beautiful, but it is not. It's not trying to do like the giant set piece moments outside of cutscenes that like 16 does or Armored Core or like things like that they do all the time. But my point in saying that was that like those games I just mentioned, like between Alan Wake and 16 and Armored Core, like I don't need games to look any better than that. Like. It's good. I'm done. We have hit the ceiling on what I give a shit about for graphics. And so, like, just focus on gameplay and focus on optimization and focus on making it run well. And then after that, I really don't give a shit. Like, part of the reason that I picked up Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader was because people were like, yo, this runs fucking amazing on Steam Deck. Like, it runs perfect. Like, you can do this mode and it runs great. And it has the AMD FSR2, like in AMD's version of DLSS or whatever, so you can like crank it up to like ultra performance or whatever and get like really rock solid stable things from all this, and you can go through and play it. It plays great. And that's like, I was straight up like, I looked at that and I was like, all right, I'm sold then. Now I don't have any qualms about purchasing this because I know that most of the way I'm going to play this game is through the Steam Deck. That's not to say that there won't be there are times where I want to play, like, for instance, Resident Evil 4 Remake, right? Like, I played that mostly on my desktop. However, there was definitely times where I loaded it up. Same thing with Armored Core. I loaded it up on the Steam Deck. It would start to work, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, even if this is not my quote-unquote, like, preferred way to play it, like, it's wild that it is solid enough to me for playthrough. And that's all I'm asking for, right? Like, I don't care that it can't run at ultra graphic settings, but if I can get a stable, like, 30, 45 FPS on it, and then I can change the refresh rate to match that so that it feels like a 60, like, dude, my boxes are checked. Now just play a good game. But, like, I played Pentiment almost all through the Steam Deck. It was fantastic. Like,
all my Baldur's Gate play is on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like, I remember when Steam Deck first came out, people were like, because I'm a gadget guy, people were like, oh, you're going to get it. And I was like, no, because, like, they've never done anything like this before, so I need to see what reviews are actually like and so on. I held off on that thing for probably 8 months, I think, before I got, maybe longer, when it came out. But then when I got it, it not only completely changed the way that, like, I play games, the uptick that you saw in the PC games that I purchased and played versus the downswing, like, it coincided completely with the fact that I don't turn on this PlayStation, I don't turn on this Xbox, right, which is crazy. But to the customization piece, like, it has the perfect interface because I changed literally everything about it. My tiles are circular instead of square. I have big artwork on the main screen instead of games that I see. I have multiple times gone through every game on there, including the ROMs that I've added myself, so like 600.
Yeah.
Literally over 600 games.
That you dumped from your own legitimate copies.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
It was more for preservation.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like all of my Game Boy Color games have the same banner that say Game Boy Color, like the OG box art did. Same with the Dreamcast, same with the Xbox. But like I can do, then all my new games have the custom art that I really want. So my Baldur's Gate has it is like some artwork that somebody did with Shadowheart on the front, right? It's not all the characters, it's just her, and like, so the customization is nuts, and I change it way too often. But I've even changed the fact that my sliders are rainbow colors, and I have the music playing when I want, and I just, everything about it, I have changed the way it boots up. So
mine has the Wii Shop music playing all the time. The do 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 do. That's what the background is for my Steam Deck. And then I ripped out the sound effects and I made it so that the sound effects are the Dreamcast console sound effects.
That's good. Mine, all of my music will be whatever tile is currently up. So it'll be the main game music.
There's the game one. There's two different add-ons. But yes,
But to your point, Christian, like sometimes you want the fix of the game and don't want to go to like your PC to play it, so you launch it on here, right? And like you said, it may not be the preferred way to play, but then there's apps like CSS loader or some other things, if that may be the wrong one, but whatever, you can power tools. You can tweak the way it plays to make sure that it always gives you the best experience. So like, I'm trying to think. There's not many games that I preferred to play on PC versus Steam Deck. Like Baldur's Gate was definitely one, just because I like the bigger screen. But to your point, like if I needed, I can have the same great experience on that handheld. And it was just, it's incredible. So it's changed the way I shop and pay for games, and it's changed the way that I fundamentally like just play and enjoy my games. And it's allowed me to dabble. So like I've dabbled in more games. I've tried different types of games because of like I can buy them from Steam. I have the return policy. I can get them on sale, and I can see what people truly think. So yeah, this is just like the Steam Deck praise cast, but it goes hand in hand with my PC too. Like those two combined, they are my now preferred way to play because of the freedom that I have in just like, how do I want it to look? What's the experience that I want? You know, even on Halo, as we talked about earlier, like I play on PC, I just like the experience better. So, yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's really where I'm at. Like, I agree with you on the PC thing. Like, it's like, you know, to me, it's just for me, it's all about convenience. It's what am I doing right now and where am I at right now. If I'm in my office, then yeah, dude, I want to load up the PC version. I want my save to be there. I want everything to be there and be the way that I want it to be. But if I'm in my living room or if I'm traveling or from whatever, then I want the Steam Deck and I want it to be so like it really can go. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, Eloise.
God. Anyway, but yeah, he's done with me. He's like, pay attention to me. But it's also all about where I'm at the moment, and I think. That's why the Steam Deck ended up blowing up the way it did. And you know, all of the customization stuff helps, right? And having that library there that you've already owned helps. And it being Linux and it being open source so that the community can sort of work on it with Valve in a way is like, you know, it helps. But the true thing is, it's just like, it allows you to take a library that you've already owned and play in a non-compromising way however you feel like playing.
And you said something there that is key to me too, which is like, it's Valve and their community. So like the handheld market is taking off, and I know Travis, who's hosted the show here before with us, and you know, is a friend of the show, and a couple other people I know have these other like Windows-based machines, and I'm sure they're fine. But the thing that keeps me from that is like, I know how Windows performs, right? But the thing is, if something happens with Windows, I gotta fix it. It's just not true. Christian has to fix it, right?
Yeah.
And like that's the thing, but like, and I can only customize it so much because Windows is Windows. But with Steam Deck, there is an entire community, and until those other, the Asus and the Lenovo, until they get a community behind their handheld like Valve has, it's hard for me to want to move to something else because I lose that customization. There's a few things you can do because it is Windows, but it's not to the same level that I can do on the Steam Deck.
And part of that has to do with Microsoft and the company they are. And it's not even just specifically Microsoft. If Apple were to make a handheld like this, it would be the same way, right? Or if Google, like, you know, or not Google, but like when you have something that has an OS that's a proprietary thing, like that's a piece of software, it's in that company's best interest to keep it a walled garden that keeps you in so that you constantly stay there, right?
Right. And it gives you their best experience, right? Is what they consider their best experience. So I get it.
Absolutely.
And in the case of those Windows handhelds, like, it is an easier time installing Game Pass games on that thing than Steam. Regardless of how easy it is on Steam Deck, the fact of the matter is that if it's 6 or 8 buttons set up on that step guide that they released for Steam Deck, it's one button on the Legion Go or whatever. You just press install and it works, right? Because Windows is already baked on. That being said, I think the reason that the SteamOS, specifically that flavor of Linux, is able to work so well for the customers is because everybody that's in it is like, great, now that we already know that this flavor, all of Linux, but this specific flavor of Linux is not trying to compete with Mac or iOS, and it's certainly not trying to compete with Windows. So let's just make it a good experience now. Like, let's give people a reason to stick around and have fun, because it's not like we have to worry about making money. Like, we're going to be making money on the Steam store, and we're going to be making money on the handheld, like the hardware itself. So who gives a shit about, like, I'm not selling licenses to this operating system, and I certainly don't care what somebody does to it. Here's what we give you. If you want to mess with it and change it, be our guest. But also don't call me when it fucks up.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, is it's like, we're giving you this, and because this is going to sound because it's unchained from the worries of these big tech companies that they normally have to worry about, they are able to get a better experience to us because of it, I think.
But and for now, because companies change and Valve is growing and things happen, right? But for now, they also look and they say, but also with the hardware, here's the experience we provide. But because our community is such a big part of what we want, if you want to put your own screen, if you want to change the hard drive, like, you can do it. Here's the parts that we use. If you need to replace something yourself, which is incredibly consumer friendly, but maybe you just want, like, it's a mod community. Maybe you want to modify it to the way you want. Go crazy. Again, if you put something that's not our OEM stuff in it and it breaks, like, hey, don't look at us, right? Or if it overheats. But, like, here's how to do it. And they're so giving with that information, so you can do what you, and, like, we make money off our Steam store. We want to keep you here, so go crazy with what you want. And I hope they keep that for a long time, right?
I think that, genuinely, my opinion is that I think, much like the CEO of Costco who threatened to kill somebody over the price of their hot dog, I think that Gabe Newell will, over his dead body, will anything change at Valve. Valve will be the company that we know while Gabe Newell is still alive, for better or for worse. But the second that man leaves to the ethereal plane is when I think we have some, either he picks a worthy successor that just keeps the ship going the way the ship is supposed to go, or we're fucked. And, like, a Jim Ryan becomes the CEO of Valve. And in that case, because there's a lot of things Valve could do today
to make more money.
Oh, the ads could be more atrocious, and it'd be worse.
Yeah, by make more money, we're talking levels of money that would have not been previously known before. Like, it could be up there with an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft, easy. I mean, and when I say Microsoft, I don't mean Microsoft Gaming. I mean Microsoft, the company. Mm-hmm. Like, the reason that Microsoft is able to take such a loss on Xbox all the fucking time is because the rest of Microsoft makes a fuck ton of money all the time. And it's the same reason why, you see, like, as far as Google and Apple is concerned, whenever, like, they have there's like, we don't run into issues. We run into problems that we solve by putting money in front of it and moving it out of our way, because that's just, Valve could absolutely be in that situation. It's Gabe Newell, in my opinion, that stops that from happening. So we should enjoy it while we have it.
Sure. Real quick, for those of you who don't know, when you start up the Steam Deck, I love turning my Steam Deck just because I want to see which intro it is. I have my intros on shuffle. So there's a little, I guess, like a side-loaded program you can get that gives you custom-made intros to where it could be just like any of the old console intros. I got the ones that are like
Cyberpunk intro.
I got ones that where it's like all the old school and even like currently new ones, as far as like the movie production companies, like a Paramount kind of one that comes through, like a Tombstone one that comes through, and kind of just use a Steam Deck's name instead. What are some of your guys' favorite ones? I would say that the one I get super excited of when it pops on there is it's the Marvel Studios intro. But instead of Marvel Studios, it says Steam Deck, and while they're doing the whole like song and it's kind of slowly zooming out, like all those videos are of different games on Steam Deck. So I can see a little bit of Celeste, a little bit of The Witcher, a little bit of this and that. I'm like, that one is really cool. All the Persona ones are a lot of fun. I enjoy seeing those pop up there. And they got a Ninja Turtles one too, which I like a lot. But yeah,
I will have to check out that Marvel one. I only have two. I might have three downloaded, but I think I only have two downloaded, and I only use one. So I have the Matrixy one that does like the music and like the lights, and then does Steam Deck. But the one that I got, and like the moment I found it, I was like, this is all I'm ever gonna use, and I don't even know why. Because it's not my favorite show on the planet. Like, I enjoy it, but there's just something about, like, it's the Love, Death, and Robots shows 3 icons, and then they almost like what do you call the little casino?
Yeah.
It does like a slot reel, right?
Yeah,
And it changes, and on the TV show, it ends with like, these are the 3 things you're gonna experience in this episode, right? The 3 like topics or whatnot. So this one just kind of spins around to different like looks and images, and then it stops with the Valve one, and then Steam Deck pops up and it kind of like jitters. So I don't know why. I think the animation is spot on, and it's perfect for like what this is when I turn it on. I just really like it.
So my top 2, the one that I switch between the most are, I have a Bomb Rush Cyberpunk one.
That's a good one.
So it plays the theme song from that one, which is really like this upbeat, like fun. It shows all the characters running around, and then as one of them is grinding, like they're grinding like sort of towards the camera, and then it cuts in the Bomb Rush Cyberpunk font. It says Valve Steam Deck, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And then the other one is, it's the original opening for the Pokemon, like original, like with the 2 like the Nidorans like fighting or whatever, and then Gengar or whatever, it's like jumping and they're jumping at each other and they fight, and it does the whole so it's basically what they did is they lifted the one, right, but they lifted the one from the show, where, so for those who don't know, original, God, this is, if you want to see what a masterclass in animation looks like, it is the original episode of Pokemon the Anime, where it's the original Game Boy Color intro, right, with Gengar and Nidoran, they're getting ready to fight, and then as the camera starts to zoom in, it goes into the show, so like elements of the show start to come to life, like, and then it's like, and then it gets into the full 3D arena, and they start fighting each other and doing the thing. It's so well done. But it's basically that right before that kicks off. So it's just that original Game Boy Color version, and it's the same Pokemon music in the background, and then it loads up and it goes. And then my pause animation, like if I put it to sleep, is the To Be Continued from JoJo Part 3, where and it's like doom 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 doom, and it goes into that. Yeah, that's it. So that's my jam. I have some other ones, like I got a Zone of the Enders one that's really cool. Sure. I've got a really stupid one that I showed Preston. That's a Dragon Ball Z one. That's like, it's not Dragon Ball, but it's like,
it's the meme. Is it the meme one to where like it's the whole like he goes God and does Kamehameha, like he powers up a little bit hard, but it's like more of a squeakier voice. And it's like metal. Dude, that one popped up with me on random the other day. I'm like, I'm fucking hyped to play Baldur's Gate right now. Like really fucking hyped. Like this got me going.
So for those who don't know, it's like a meme of those people who always say like, "Can I get an oh yeah?" or something like that.
And just powers.
Yeah, but then this one is like Goku going like Super Saiyan Blue or whatever. But then it's like the voice of that line is like a chipmunk voice, but then Doom Rip and Tear is playing behind it. So it's like down, dude. It's so fucking funny. So I have that. I never use it, but I have it to play just randomly whenever I'm like I want to laugh, and so I do that. But the one that I mainly use is the Bomb Rush Cyberpunk one for right now, but I'll switch between that and the Pokemon one.
I've definitely the Marvel Studio one, but yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else anyone wants to touch on any of these consoles, on their Steam Deck? Do you want to talk about a little bit?
I want to touch a lot of things, Preston, but unfortunately I cannot. So, that's what it is. No, that was good. Good time to check in on things. We will be back with you next week.
And I have a question. We could do a video game book club. So
I'm not playing Snap.
I tested it out. You can play Flower with one hand.
He doesn't have a PS3 though.
You don't need a PS3. I play on my PS5.
Oh, sure. I didn't.
To be fair, it's also on Steam, and you can get it to where it works with the motions if you do something with Steam. But
we will talk about that offline. We'll see what we can do. I want. In short, I want to do whatever we can to back video game book club for our listeners before 1/4 of the year is gone, right? Like if I don't get out of this thing till mid-April, like I would really like to be doing video game book club for everybody before we get back. We have a lot of games that we want to get into, and there was some I was even really excited about for my own. So we'll see what we can do. We'll talk about that offline, see what we can do too.
The main with that one is I thought it would be fun that in solidarity we could all play the game one-handed, because only like a one sit-down kind of deal. So I think that'd be kind of fun.
Solidarity.
Yeah, with me.
Yeah, with in solidarity with Chris, because he can only play with one hand, so we all play with one hand.
I see. And so I thought you were saying the game title is called.
Oh no, flower.
Christian's just like, ooh, gross, and solidarity with the cripple over there.
Okay,
Like,
first of all, I already sandbagged your joke by explaining what I meant, so I know you still had to get it out, but that's just not what happened. But also, number two, on this very podcast, I said that I would play games for you and we would stream it together and watch it.
Allie said that. Allie said that too. She goes, maybe for your week, like you can just do a diary of like a video. She said a gamer's girlfriend. She's like, that way you know how we all
plays it for
feel
you.
watching you be good at video games. You can just watch me play. And I told her straight up, I was like, I would murder myself. I would be so irritated watching you play. And she's like, why? I was like, because there would be things you'd be doing. No offense to you, right? Like I've watched you play Hogwarts and other things. I've guided you through some of those games, but there would be things you would do where I would just be like, do it differently. Do it.
Yeah, listen to me or don't do this at all.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't do it.
Right on. But yeah, we'll figure it
figure
out. We can.
We'll get you out of
We'll
that.
see what we can do to bring it back.
Yeah,
We'll bring it back.
for sure.
Yeah.
Soon.
For sure.
So
All right.
All right.
cool. All right, everybody.
Sweet.
Well, press topic. Thank you for bringing that today. And with that, we'll see you all next time. Thanks for hanging out with us. You know what to do. Preston.
Hit it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.